All right, we are back again to try this again. The first ever private spacewalk is coming up, and it's supposed to be at 5:58 a.m. By the crew of the SpaceX Polaris Dawn mission, and we're here to cover it, guys. We are here to cover it. And we came on at about, I don't know, like 4 hours ago, 3 hours ago or something, maybe. And it got delayed a few hours, but it's supposed to be happening. The attempt is supposed to be happening at 5:58 a.m. In about 10 minutes or so, SpaceX is supposed to start its live stream, and I believe we should have access to that through Reuters. So we'll be keeping an eye on the SpaceX live stream, and we'll be watching this live when it happens. So looking forward to that, and hopefully it goes off fine. And we'll take your comments and questions on the air. How about that? So we're back. I took a nap for about an hour and a half. So that was good. Welcome and appreciate you joining the broadcast. Hey, MG Monkey. That's so nice of you, MG Monkey. Thank you. Very generous of you, MG Monkey. Wow. Thanks to MG Monkey and also everybody else for watching the stream here at this weird hour of 4:40 a.m. Yeah, we are getting ready for this, and we're going to talk a little bit about what this whole thing is. What this whole thing is. I'm going to actually show you a little picture. Let me show you a little picture here. I'm going to show you guys a picture. Before I show you a picture, let me thank our moderators who are here. Ruth Krafasi is moderating over there on YouTube. Thank you, Ruth. Linda Belk and Larry on X. Now it's possible they'll bump it. They can bump this till tomorrow. They haven't said they're bumping it. You never know. You never know. They could bump it. Over there on Twitch, we have A Moment of Lovely, LB Prairie Dawn, and Sarah moderating. And on Facebook, we have Margaret Riley and Kay Lowry Body are there moderating. Thank you so much to all of our moderators. Let me show you a little picture here, okay? Just for the fun of it. By the way, this is from an article. AP had a recent article entitled Spacewalking is the new domain of the rich as billionaire attempts first private spacewalk. This mission is bankrolled by Jared Isaacman, who is a billionaire entrepreneur, who is one of the 4 people on board, and one of the 2 people is going to go outside the spacecraft. And you see that picture right there? It's a SpaceX illustration. It's from the AP article. That's a SpaceX illustration. Let me get you a little better shot of that picture right there. So that is, in theory, what it will look like right there. That's, in theory, what it's going to look like. So there's 4 people inside that capsule. The hatch is going to open, and then one of them is going to go out, I think, for 15 minutes, according to the New York Times. And then the other one is going to go out for 15 minutes. And 2 of them are going to stay inside. But the thing is, there's no airlock. So it's going to be the people inside are just as reliant on their spacesuits as the people outside. See, because if there were any air inside, it would just be released to outside when they open the hatch. As the New York Times put it, they've basically been pumping all the air, getting all the air out of the inside. So when they open the hatch, basically the inside is going to be the same as the outside. And you can't survive out in space without the spacesuit. So even though, 2 of them are going to go outside one at a time, the other 2 inside will be just as reliant on their spacesuits for survival. They're not going to be, it's just that they're physically not going to be outside the craft, but the hatch is going to be open. So that's what it's supposed to look like. There you go. That's from SpaceX. That's on the SpaceX website, but I can show it to you because it's from that Associated Press article. Spacewalking is the new domain of the rich as billionaire attempts first private spacewalk. And by the way, it did get delayed by a few hours. You can see here, billionaire spacewalk. AP likes to have the word billionaire in their headline. Billionaire spacewalk with SpaceX delayed several hours, hundreds of miles above Earth. A billionaire will have to wait a little longer to perform the first private spacewalk after SpaceX delayed Thursday's spacewalk by a few hours. It was originally supposed to be around 2:20 something, I think. But now it's 5:58. Tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman and his crew began preparing for the endeavor soon after blasting into orbit on Tuesday for a 5-day flight, which he is bankrolling the mission, which Reuters says is believed to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. SpaceX announced postponement an hour ahead of the planned start of the spacewalk. No explanation was immediately given for the delay, but the company said via X all systems are looking good. Isaacman and a SpaceX engineer will take turns emerging from their capsule hundreds of miles above Earth, sticking close to the hatch. 2 other crew members will remain strapped in their seats. Isaacman teamed up with SpaceX for the first commercial spacewalk to test out new spacesuits. So again, let's just look at this picture again. Can we look at this picture again? What happened to it? There it is. Wow. That, again, is from SpaceX via AP. And shortly, they'll be going live over there on SpaceX, and we'll have that feed too. Thank you to Saskia de West Burke for becoming a new member. Sneezing Eagle says, one heck of a picture. Yeah, that is not a live picture. That is, somebody drew that. But that is basically what's supposed to happen. Let's see here. And again, this is not tax dollars. One of our viewers said, I don't like us spending tax dollars on this. Well, this is not a NASA operation. That's why it's called a private spacewalk. It's a private company doing this. It's not, now, you know, the issue aside of whether that private company may have gotten some government benefits in the past, whatever. The point is, this is not a government operation. This is a private company operation. On the Polaris Dawn site, I think they call it the first commercial spacewalk. By the way, you know, I read this in the New York Times. The New York Times said, I think nobody has ever been killed or injured while taking a spacewalk. That's what the New York Times said. That's what they said. I mean, that's not to say there is not risk involved at all. But let me double check that, because I was reading that before. Let me just double check it. It says, yes, the New York Times says that no astronauts have ever been killed or had a serious injury in a spacewalk. Let's hope that continues today. Let's hope that continues today. Okay, I want to take some comments from you. We're waiting for the Reuters, the SpaceX stream to go live. Let me give you a little background on this. This is from Associated Press. Spacewalking is the new domain of the rich as billionaire attempts first private spacewalk. First came space tourism, where you had spacecraft going up into space with paying customers on it. First came space tourism. Now comes an even bigger thrill for the moneyed masses spacewalking. The stage is set for the first private spacewalk today. Hey, just a little over an hour from now. Tech billionaire Jared Isaacman will pop out of the hatch of his orbiting SpaceX capsule 2 days after blasting off from Florida on a chartered flight that lifted him and his 4-person crew, higher than anyone since NASA's moonwalkers. Yes, this crew in this craft has gone higher than anyone since 1972. He partnered with SpaceX CEO Elon Musk to buy a series of rocket rides and help develop brand new spacesuits. Again, according to Reuters, Reuters says, that is Jared Isaacman right there, by the way. He is the tech billionaire right there. There's Jared Isaacman, there's Scott Poteet, and then there's 2 SpaceX employees, Anna Menon and Sarah Gillis. And if you look here, it says Jared Isaacman, a pilot and the billionaire founder of electronic payments company Shift4, is bankrolling the Polaris mission. He has declined to say how much he has paid for the missions, but they are likely to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And let me just go back here to this article from Associated Press. SpaceX is the first private company to attempt a spacewalk, until now the domain of just 12 countries. There's a reason why it's such a niche and elite group. Spacewalking is considered the most dangerous part of any flight after launch and reentry and demands extensive training. Spacewalks are a whole different entire ballgame than just strapping into a rocket and riding it, getting some zero-G time and coming back, said a retired NASA astronaut, Chris Cassidy. Now look at this. This is interesting. Cassidy knows firsthand about the dangers of spacewalking. He was working outside the International Space Station in 2013 when his partner, Italian astronaut Luca Parmitano, almost drowned. Parmitano's helmet filled with water from his cooling garment, and he barely made it back inside in time. Another 30 minutes that day, and the answer might be different, Cassidy said. Cassidy worries there's a slippery slope where the wealthy could try to jump to the front of a spacewalking line with minimal training. Also, risk and disaster analyst Eileen Kelman of University College London said it's appropriate and inevitable that non-professionals will end up performing spacewalks, but he anticipates fatalities along the way. We can and should do plenty to reduce the risk, he said. We must be entirely honest with anyone participating, especially the low chance of rescue when something major goes wrong. This is interesting. I'm just going to read a little more of this article. The SpaceX is going to start their live stream soon. But this article is some nice background here from Associated Press. Let me read you a little more of it. The spacewalk attempt won't be like what routinely happens at the International Space Station, where astronauts float out to do repairs. Jared Isaacman, who is the billionaire entrepreneur who is funding this mission, and SpaceX engineer Sarah Gillis will venture just barely outside the capsule as they soar about 450 miles above Earth. Their orbit was initially twice that high, but reduced for the spacewalk. Besides being new to spacewalking, the crew of 4 will test suits fresh off the factory floor. All will be exposed to the vacuum of space, since the Dragon capsule, unlike larger space vehicles, lacks an airlock. The bulk of their training over the past 2 years has focused on the spacewalk, the highlight of their planned 5-day flight. The SpaceX put considerable preparation and testing into the capsule and suits, said SpaceX's Bill Gerstenmaier, a former NASA manager. For safety, the 2 spacewalkers, Isaacman and Gillis, will always keep a hand or foot on the capsule or the ladder-like support that they'll position above the hatch. They will be tethered to 12-foot lines, but there will be no dangling at the end of the lines. The duo will take turns emerging from the hatch, each spending 15 to 20 minutes outside as they flex and test their suits. Their crewmates, SpaceX engineer Anna Menon and former Air Force Thunderbird pilot Scott Kid Poteet, will monitor the spacewalk from inside, where they will also rely on their spacesuits for survival. The entire spacewalk should last no more than 2 hours. Isaacman has refused to say how much he invested in the flight. To date, 263 individuals, representing a dozen countries, have performed spacewalks, according to NASA statistics. Okay? So, that's a nice little summary there from Associated Press about what we're going to see. This whole thing's supposed to take about 2 hours. How about that? How about that? Very interesting. They're going to each be outside for 15 to 20 minutes, and it's going to look like that. Whew! Wow. So we should have a stream soon to show you. Hold on a second. All right, so very shortly I'm supposed to have shortly, any moment now, I'm supposed to get I think like in a minute. Oops, sorry. In a minute, the SpaceX live stream is supposed to start. So when that starts, I will put that on the screen for you guys, okay? We have access to the SpaceX live stream from Reuters. Wow. All right, let me read some comments on the air let me read some comments from you guys. Sorry, I just wanted to, I thought that was really an informative article, so I wanted to give you guys some background. Hopefully everybody will be safe. Only, again, what did the article say? How many people have done this? 263 individuals have ever spacewalked. And it's all been, on government missions. Hey, thanks Debbie James for the gift membership. Thank you also to Switch the Channel. Says, what happens if Polaris ends up like the Titan sub? I mean, look, as the article said, it's not like someone's coming to rescue you anytime soon. And they when that hatches, well, even now, because I believe, according to the New York Times, they've already been pumping air out of that cabin, out of the capsule. So I believe as of right now, even, they are relying on their suits for survival. They could not be in there even now with the hatch closed, I believe, without wearing their suits, because they've already been getting the air out of the capsule. So don't quote me on that, but that's my understanding is that's, I mean, I know I believe it's like a 45-hour process to depressurize the capsule. But hang on a second here. Yeah, so they've been lowering the air pressure in the capsule, and I can't. My guess is that because it's so close to the spacewalk, at this point maybe they had that they couldn't just take their suits off inside the capsule. I don't know that for sure though. I don't know that for sure. Definitely. Oh, hold on a second. I have something for you. I can't play the music yet. But I can do this. This is the live stream from SpaceX, and we are watching it via Reuters. So what I need to do is put on the screen. But they're playing music right now, so I have to hold off until they stop playing the music. Why am I seeing something else? There we go. Okay. There we go. So this is the SpaceX feed, and again, via Reuters. SpaceX via Reuters. I actually want to put something on the screen here. Are they talking yet?
Polaris Dawn EVA, also known as an extravehicular activity or spacewalk. For the first time ever, a spacewalk will be performed by civilian astronauts flying on a commercial spacecraft. Good morning, I'm Kate Tice, Senior Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX in Hawthorne, California.
And I'm Dan Hewitt from the communications team. Now, the first EVA in history was performed in 1965 by Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov, followed just 3 months later by the first American spacewalk done by Ed White during the Gemini 4 mission. From those humble beginnings to walking on the surface of the moon, repairing satellites, building space stations in orbit, spacewalks are really a core component of human spaceflight.
While EVAs are well-established procedures for NASA and other space agencies, this will be the first spacewalk using commercially developed hardware and procedures, and SpaceX's brand new EVA suits, which we debuted earlier this year. Now, we've tested extensively in vacuum chambers here on Earth, but this is the first time that the suits will encounter the vacuum of space.
And on board the Dragon spacecraft right now is the Polaris Dawn crew. Starting off, you got Mission Commander Jared Rook Isaacman, Mission Pilot Scott Kidd Poteet, and for the first time ever, we're excited about this, 2 SpaceX employees, Mission Specialist Sarah Cooper Gillis and Anna Walker Menon, who's serving as the Mission Specialist and Medical Officer. 4 members of the crew have been orbiting Earth for 2 days since they lifted off from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center on Tuesday, September 10th. That adds up to about 15 to 16 orbits around the Earth every single day and counting.
On day 2 of the mission, as you can see there on your screen, Dragon fired its forward Draco bulkhead thrusters to send the spacecraft soaring higher than any Dragon mission to date, reaching the highest Earth orbit ever flown. The crew topped out at more than 1,400 kilometers, breaking the record set by Gemini 11 a half century ago when that spacecraft reached 1,373 kilometers. This was also the farthest from Earth for a crewed spacecraft since the last Apollo lunar mission in 1972.
Since that time, Dragon has gradually lowered its apogee, or the highest point in its orbit, as the crew got ready for the spacewalk today. They started to don or put on their EVA suits just a little bit of time ago, and they've been undergoing a process called pre-breathing, where the atmospheric pressure inside Dragon is slowly decreased and oxygen is increased to prepare their bodies for the EVA suit environment. We're going to dive more into the operations of the spacewalk a little bit later, and we're going to be hearing in live communications with the crew throughout, so be sure to listen in as those happen.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting to hear that. And as far as views goes, we'll have Dragon's regular internal cameras that we have seen before, and up to 3 external cameras, one aimed at the hatch, kind of like what you see there. One on Dragon's nose cone, which actually is the one that's there. That's the camera on the nose cone. And one on the newest piece of hardware that you see there in that view. That is the Skywalker, which we will come back to shortly.
Wow, so they're going to hang on to that thing.
We also have helmet cameras that will give us a first-person view from the crew, which will be
helmet cameras.
Now, since we are not using Starlink to enable views today, there will be moments of expected loss of signal due to ground station coverage. So those views may be interrupted from time to time, but generally we expect to get some great shots today.
And as of right now, we're less than an hour away from the start of the EVA. For now, though, let's learn a little bit more about the mission and our crew.
All right, I'm gonna go away from this part, okay? Because I'm trying to I want to take some comments from you guys. Well, are they still talking, or are they going to a video package?
Awareness for important causes down here on Earth. Today's goal is to demonstrate critical operational capabilities that are going to serve as those building blocks to help further human space exploration. Polaris Dawn mission has a lot of first-time objectives, so the Polaris program chose a crew of experts who know each other so they can tackle this mission's challenges as a team.
First up, Mission Commander Jared Rook Isaacman also served as the commander of Inspiration 4, the world's first all-civilian mission to space. Jared holds several world records, including 2 speed-around-the-world flights in 2008 and 2009 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
He's also a billionaire entrepreneur.
Over 100 air shows as part of the Black Diamond Jet team, dedicating every performance to charitable causes.
Reuters says he's bankrolling
Jared
the mission.
co-founded what would become the world's largest private air force, Draken International, and that trains pilots for the U.S. Armed Forces. In addition to his role as CEO of Shift 4, Jared is an accomplished pilot and astronaut with over 7,000 flight hours.
Next up, mission pilot Scott Kidd Poteet, who served as the mission director of Inspiration 4, and he goes by the nickname Kidd, which is also his call sign. He's a retired U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel. Kidd served for 20 years in roles that included commander of the 64th Aggressor Squadron, Thunderbird No. 4 demonstration pilot, U.S. Air Force Weapons School graduate, operational test and evaluation pilot, and flight examiner. He's a command pilot with over 3,200 flying hours, logged over 400 hours of combat time, and following his Air Force career, Kidd served in various roles, including Vice President of Strategy at Shift 4.
Mission Specialist Sarah Cooper Gillis is a lead space operations engineer here at SpaceX, and she's responsible for overseeing our astronaut training program. She helped prepare NASA astronauts for the Demo 2 and Crew 1 missions, and most recently directly trained the Inspiration 4 astronauts. Sarah is an experienced mission control operator who has supported real-time operations for Dragon's cargo resupply missions to and from the International Space Station as navigation officer and as a crew communicator for Dragon's human spaceflight missions. In 2015, while studying at the University of Colorado Boulder, Sarah started an internship at SpaceX before moving into the astronaut training program full-time.
And capping off the Polaris Dawn crew, mission specialist and medical officer Anna Walker-Menon, who serves as a lead space operations engineer here at SpaceX, where she manages the development of crew operations and works in mission control as both a mission director and crew communicator. During her time at SpaceX, Anna has led the implementation of Dragon's crew capabilities and developed critical operational responses to vehicle emergencies. Prior to SpaceX, Anna worked for 7 years at NASA as a biomedical flight controller for the International Space Station. She received her bachelor's degree in mathematics and Spanish from Texas Christian University and her master's degree in biomedical engineering from Duke University. Everyone on this mission certainly has the background, the qualifications you would want in your crewmates when you're going to space. That's clear. But let's take a moment now to meet our Polaris Dawn crew in their own words.
I can't play the music, so let's talk about this again. So this is it's supposed to be would be the first private spacewalk. Everybody who's done a spacewalk previously has been part of a government mission, funded and supported and I would say organized space mission, but that's not what's going on here. And by the way, according to Wikipedia, a spacewalk is a type of EVA, extravehicular activity. It's any activity. An EVA is any activity done by an astronaut in outer space, outside a spacecraft. In the absence of a breathable Earth-like atmosphere, the astronaut is completely reliant on a spacesuit for environmental support. EVA includes spacewalks and lunar or planetary surface exploration, commonly known as moonwalks. There have been, according to AP, there have been 263 individuals in history who have done a spacewalk, but they've all been part of government space missions. So this is going to be the first time that a non-government space mission has had astronauts doing a spacewalk. And remember, 2 of the 4 of them are actually going to leave the capsule, but the other 2 are going to be just as exposed to space because there's no airlock on the capsule. So once the hatch is open, the people inside are just as exposed, just have to rely just as much on their spacesuit to breathe as the people outside the spacecraft. So this is coming up in 51 minutes. And Jared Isaacman, who you just saw on the screen, he is the 3rd person there. He is a billionaire entrepreneur who, according to Reuters, is bankrolling this mission. Reuters said it's believed this mission cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh, are they speaking again? Hold on.
Let's recap the mission so far and what's coming up next. Since liftoff and getting to their initial orbit on day 1, the crew has been quite busy. The crew had a few meals, got some rest, and spent a few hours demonstrating the EVA suit's pressurized mobility to verify positions and accessibility in microgravity. The crew also prepared the cabin for the EVA and, of course, had an opportunity to talk to their families and check in. As I mentioned earlier, on day 2, Dragon proceeded to a high apogee of more than 1,400 kilometers, higher than any Dragon mission to date. This was also the farthest from Earth for a crewed spacecraft since the last Apollo lunar mission in 1972. In preparation for the spacewalk, Dragon has been executing a series of apogee-lowering phasing burns. By now, Dragon has lowered itself from the highest apogee of the mission of more than 1,400 kilometers to about 190 by 700 kilometers above the Earth. Also on day 2, the crew was joined on air by some very special guests. As you can see here, we are not here, but we had patients and families at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And they're joined live while Polaris Dawn crew member Anna Menon read from her new book, Kisses from Space. Along with the patients and families at St. Jude, Anna's children, James and Grace, also joined the reading. And afterward, the crew hosted a Q&A.
And speaking of St. Jude, for this mission, the Polaris Dawn crew enlisted the help of childhood cancer survivor Liv to create the mission's zero-G indicator. While not a St. Jude patient herself, Liv met the Inspiration 4 crew, and inspired by the mission of St. Jude, she agreed to share her talents to support Polaris Dawn.
Liv, and I spell it L.
Can't play the music. I'll take some comments while the music is playing. So guys, less than an hour, about 49 minutes until this is supposed to start. How about that? Hopefully this all goes without a hitch. Hopefully. When I said that Jared Isaacman bankrolled the mission, that means according to Reuters, he financially paid for the mission, or paid for much of the mission. That is what is being reported. But he has not said how much. Let's see here. You can also write to me on X at Lookner on X. Yes, Jared Isaacman went into space a few years back, as Ghost said. Maybe I can find something about that for you. Hang on a second here. We read something about this before. Yes, Jared Isaacman also financially supported the Inspiration 4 flight with SpaceX in 2021. That was a human space flight that he went on. So in 2021, that flight, which he helped pay for, was according to Wikipedia, it was the first orbital space flight with only private citizens aboard, and was part of a charitable effort on behalf of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. Isaacman was the mission commander for that space flight. All right, hold on. Oh, hold on. I just want to make sure. If they're still playing music, I can't play it. Here we go.
Research Hospital. And Polaris Dawn will continue to raise funds and awareness for St. Jude while partnering with the organization to provide healthcare in underserved communities around the world. Now, if you want your very own asteroid, they are available at shop.spacex.com and polarisdawn.com. I did just look. Unfortunately, they are sold out right now, but there are more on the way. So be sure to check back at those sites to catch one of your own, myself included. I missed the first drop, so...
I got lucky. I snagged one. I got in there. I got a kid who
nice.
needs one.
Yeah.
All right, now... The first phase of the spacewalk, the preparation, actually started just about 2 hours after the crew reached orbit. And this is when the pre-breathe process started. That's when the oxygen levels started to increase incrementally as the cabin pressure inside Dragon was started to get incrementally lower.
The pre-breathe process is designed to decrease the amount of nitrogen in the body, which then reduces the risk of decompression sickness, which can happen as atmospheric pressure lowers. Protocols like this are used for any spacewalk done today and might feel familiar to anyone here on Earth that has gone scuba diving and done a decompression stop after ascending from a pressure in deep water back up to the surface.
And to do all this, Dragon's just been slowly decreasing that cabin pressure. That allows the crew to acclimate each time the pressure gets lower. As they get ready for the lower pressure they'll be in the suit during the spacewalk itself. They've got the ability to pause the process if they experience any discomfort, but the ear equilibrium just kind of naturally adjusts as the pressure decreases. It's kind of like when your ears pop when you change altitude in an airplane. All 4 astronauts are going to be suited for the spacewalk today because Dragon does not have an airlock. That's also kind of why the entire cabin is going to be depressurized. That's why we have this kind of unique pre-breathe process with this stuff today, too.
All of that brings us to now. So far, the crew has prepared the cabin for vacuum, which includes securing all loose items that they don't want floating around. They also completed medical checks, suit inspections, and final checkouts of the oxygen, venting, and nitrogen repressurization systems. After that, it was time to put on their EVA suits.
And now Jared and Sarah will be exiting the spacecraft today, while Kid and Anna will be supporting from the inside. Crew in the outer two seats, Kid and Anna, are going to be fully strapped in, and then the two in the middle seats, Jared and Sarah, are just going to be lightly secured ahead of the spacewalk, since they're going to be moving around and eventually heading outside.
As we listen into comms during the EVA, you may hear the crew referred to as EV1, which is Jared, and EV2, which is Sarah. Support 1 is Kid, and Support 2 is Anna. Again, they will not exit the Dragon during the EVA, but make no mistake, they are very much performing an EVA just the same, and their data is being collected as well.
Once everybody's in position, the seats are going to get rotated upright. Generally, they stay in the recline position for the majority of the mission, but we're going to rotate those upright during the EVA just to give more room to move about. After that seat rotation, the crew verifies that their heads-up display, or the HUD, on their helmet visors are turned on, operating as expected. This is how the crew will actually be able to keep tabs on the health of their suits, and they'll get some other stats of their suit operation during the spacewalk.
And that will take us to the first official go, no-go checkpoint to determine if the EVA can proceed. After an operations brief from the SpaceX team, the crew will announce their go, no-go status, and then it'll be time for the spacewalk to begin. It's expected to last about 2 hours from the time that O2 begins flowing to the crew's suits until we complete the repressurization of the cabin.
And just prior to we get to cabin venting, pure oxygen is going to start flowing to the crew's suits. That's when the EVA clock will start, so keep an eye on that. And this all gets followed by a suit leak check. We'll do the leak checks. Once those look good, Mission Control will start to vent the cabin, just removing the air in order to lower its pressure down until we can get to hatch opening.
Next, Dragon will use its Draco thrusters to reposition itself so that the trunk is facing the sun. This will help keep temperatures, communications, and spacecraft power stable during the spacewalk. At this point, the crew should be ready to open Dragon's hatch and exit the spacecraft.
After the hatch gets opened, EV1, that's Jared's call sign during the spacewalk, he's going to be the first to exit the spacecraft. He's going to go outside and he's going to do a series of mobility tests. These are kind of the core component of the spacewalk today. He's going to basically take the EVA suit through the paces. It's going to take about 15 minutes before he climbs back into Dragon.
After that, EV2, or Sarah, will step out into space to perform the same tests of her EVA suit before she then climbs back into Dragon. In addition to these suit mobility tests, Jared and Sarah will also evaluate Dragon's new Skywalker hardware. We'll talk more about that in just a bit.
And then after she's completed her test, Sarah will stand by near the hatch for the actual closing. And at this point, after the hatch is closed, the EVA is not over. The hatch door gets closed, and then the cabin has to be repressurized. We got to get all that atmosphere back inside. After we start introducing that atmosphere, we'll do cabin leak checks.
Once those leak checks are complete, the crew will return to their seats, and the EVA will be complete when the cabin pressure has returned to nominal. So, for now, the crew is suited up and awaiting final checkouts and EVA venting, which will bring in Dragon to vacuum. With everything on track, we're about 45 minutes or so from the start of the spacewalk.
And before we get there, though, we're going to expand the desk a little bit. We're happy to be joined by former NASA astronaut Mike Hopkins. We were fortunate to have him tune in with us during the launch, and now we've got him to talk to us a little bit about spacewalking today. Good to see you, Mike.
Yeah, it's great to be back. It's great to be back here in Hawthorne with you tonight on this very memorable night for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, EVAs may be new to SpaceX, but you have participated in 5 yourself while you were on the International Space Station and spent a total of 333 days in space. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate on my 2 missions. The first one was back in 2013, and I went up on a Russian Soyuz. And on that one, we had 2 spacewalks. And the interesting about those spacewalks is they weren't planned. They were what
surprise.
we call, they were a big surprise for us. Contingency spacewalk, and of course, surprises happen at Christmas because that's when we actually went out the door. Our second walk was on Christmas Eve, and that was pretty exciting to be doing a spacewalk as everybody was getting ready to celebrate Christmas down here.
You guys were just helping deliver presents.
That's right. That's right.
And then your first flight was on the Soyuz, but your second one, you were the commander of Crew 1. I mean, that was obviously really huge for everybody here. That was big for me. I was there with you at NASA still. That was a huge moment. That was the first long duration mission to the space station on Dragon. And I mean, you really got to know Dragon probably more than anybody because you actually got to call it home while you were docked up there.
That's right. I mean, I tell you, it was quite an honor to get to be a part of that crew, to get to command that crew, and it was a great, amazing group of people. Not only Victor, Shannon, and Suichi, but also everybody that helped get us there at SpaceX and at NASA. But yes, you're right, Dan.
So I just want
we didn't have enough crew stations, and actually
I just want to mention a couple things. So first of all, it turns out that, so I thought that they were already at the point on the spacecraft where they were using their suits to breathe, but they're not yet. Although sometime soon they're going to be. So, but I thought maybe already 15 minutes ago they were already breathing through their spacesuits, but apparently they weren't yet. And also, someone said, how did they determine which 2 crew members of the 4 got to go outside? Well, one of the 2 is Jared Isaacman, who multiple outlets is paying for this mission. He is a billionaire entrepreneur. So it would make sense that he goes and he's the first one. Jared Isaacman will be the first private citizen to take a spacewalk when he does it. I don't know how it was determined that one of the 2 SpaceX employees would be the other person, because there's 3 others. So I don't know how that was determined. But he's going to be Jared Isaacman will be the first one. This is it's a whole process. But basically, they have to, roughly speaking, what they're doing is, so somebody said, can you get the bends? The answer is yes. If they have to get, as I understand it, there's you have to gradually change the pressure, the conditions inside the spacecraft, because if they just went from normal inside the spacecraft, as it usually is, to let's open the hatch now or something, that could cause the astronauts to get decompression sickness. So they've gradually, over the last, I think, 45 hours, been adjusting the pressure and what the air is like inside the cabin. That's a very non-technical, amateurish explanation of that. So they have been doing that. I will try to get you a little. Hold on, let me see what they're talking about here.
Spacewalk, but we're looking out the view. We're looking down at Earth. That overview effect. What's it like the first time you get to space? You get to look back, and I mean, you can see horizon to horizon, the whole Earth below you.
It's kind of funny, Dan, because the overview effect is definitely real. But when I first got to space on that Soyuz, gosh, how many years ago? Almost 9 years ago, I had this really weird feeling of falling. And so when I looked out that window the first time, I wasn't really thinking the big thoughts of an overview effect. I was kind of thinking, what is going on with my body right now? This feels really...
That's pretty, but oh no.
But again, fortunately, when you have time to be in space, you do have an opportunity to experience that, and it is definitely true. You'll hear people talking about that small sliver of atmosphere, and you see that, and that's what's keeping us alive. You see a world without borders, which is incredible. But one of the experiences of the overview effect that I had was that that it gives you that sense of answers, but it also, for me, gave me a lot of questions and made me realize that there's a lot of this world I don't really know much about. The other parts, other countries, other societies, cultures, languages, and so sometimes it brought as many questions as it did answers.
Wow.
Hopefully a bunch more trips then, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Now, for those of us who have never been to space, it can be hard to imagine looking down from there here at planet Earth. Space photographer and author Frank White originally coined the term the overview effect in a book of the same name. Here's a little more on the phenomenon that few of us have yet to experience.
All right, I'm gonna mute this for a second. Yeah, so by the way, according to Wikipedia, they say within an hour after launch, the crew began a pre-breathing protocol to reduce nitrogen in their bodies and minimize the risk of decompression sickness during the planned spacewalk on day 3. Over 3 days, I think about 45 hours, the cabin pressure gradually decreases from 14.5 to 8.65 pounds per square inch, while oxygen levels decrease. So the idea is to keep them from getting decompression sickness. Let me take some more comments here from you guys. Mort says, don't want them getting the bends. Which is another name for decompression sickness. We're going to be watching this. They're going to have a camera inside on their helmets. Hey, thanks by the way to Sweetums. Thanks so much for your support, Sweetums, and also Michael Joseph Murray and Chris the Toffee and Debbie James. Thank you for your support, and everybody who's watching, thanks for being here. We'll be talking about this while it happens. We'll be chatting. I'll be bringing you any updates I see and taking your comments and questions on the air. Less Than says, I thought the suits took care of that problem. No, the suits themselves don't take care of the issue, as I understand it. Now, but the thing is also, so they're separate, they're putting on, they have separate, I believe these are separate EVA suits, aren't they? They're separate suits. They're not the suits that they wore. Am I right about this? That the EVA suits are not the same suits they wore for the launch? Am I right? Somebody will know this in the chat. They're special suits for when they open the hatch. Somebody's going to say it in the chat. Yeah, Zimph says they're new suits. Yes. A says correct. I'm not an expert on this stuff, which I'm sure you could tell.
Yeah, so when I went out, I mentioned that first spacewalk as contingency. We had a failure. And so sometimes when we're going outside, it's not planned and you have a component that is no longer working. And in this case, it was a part of the cooling system, external cooling system on station. And so we needed to go out and replace this refrigerator-sized pump module. And so that took us a couple walks to do that. Other times we're going out and we're putting a new piece of equipment on board. Sometimes normal maintenance. Sometimes we're upgrading equipment like new solar arrays, new batteries, and things of that nature. And sometimes you're doing like what the Polaris Dawn crew is going to do today, and you're just checking out the suits and checking out the equipment that you're going to use in future spacewalks as well.
Now, with all of the experience that you have up there, I'm guessing there might be an EVA experience or achievement that you are particularly proud of?
Well, I'm proud of every one of them. Right, when you get out the door and then you come back in safely, I think that's what everybody wants.
So Injured Robot says they were wearing the EVA suits. Well, I'm confused. Why does it say suit donning? To don a suit is to put on the suit. So why would it say suit donning if they were wearing... Oh, did they have the suits on to launch and then they took the suits off? Is that what happened? Oh, they took them off. Okay. So the suits they were wearing for launch were the EVA suits, but they did take them off because it says suit donning. They're putting on the suits. All right, so it was the same suits at the start, but they just took them off after the launch. They don't wear their suits all the time. Okay.
And what are you proud of?
I don't know how long they had them on for the launch.
So much to put these vehicles up in this.
I don't know what percentage of the time they've been wearing their suits. It's a good question.
A big part of it is you don't want to mess up, right? Because
But they are called EVA suits.
that's right.
SpaceX designed extravehicular activity spacesuits.
That you just made, everything's working, looks good, station's back up 100%. You say like, okay, that feels great.
Dragon SpaceX, our fan commanding is now complete.
Hold on. Hang on.
Copy, we see, sir.
By the way, the time is...
All right. Hopefully no
The actual
surprise
time's in
sounds
the
there
corner.
for him. So,
That's right.
I mean, spacewalks are something that...
Somebody asked about, can you put the time up? It is up. It's in the corner. So the first private spacewalk is scheduled for 5:58, give or take. It's currently 5:28. We're about a half hour away.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the first challenges that you're always worried about is how your suit's functioning, right? Because that's what's keeping you alive when you're outside like that. So there are always, you're monitoring your suits yourselves. People on the ground are monitoring your suits and how that's performing. And so those are certainly things that you need to be conscious of and aware of. And then when you're out there as well, there are so many steps that it takes to get through a spacewalk. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of steps. And so it's too much for you to remember. And so that's where it's a teamwork between you and the ground. And so they're making all of those calls. Hey, here's your next step. Here's what the settings are for these tools. And they're just walking you through the whole process. And so I think that's one of the neat things about spacewalks that maybe people don't realize is, you focus on the people actually getting to go out and do the walk. But the team on the ground is such a huge part of that as well.
I still don't know if the suits they were wearing for launch are the same suits that they're wearing for the EVA. So I will officially say I don't know. That's the best I can tell you. It's a good question. Hey, thanks to 4955 for your support. We're about a half hour away from this, guys. Can you believe it?
Like a cakewalk at all.
GB Vool says it's definitely not the same. The EVA suits are definitely not the same as the launch suits.
Spacewalk, you're definitely very, very focused, and you never want to let your guard down with it. I will say you certainly are.
The chat disagrees. We got a bunch of people in the chat saying it's the same suit, and a bunch of people in the chat saying it's different suits.
Back to experiences down here on Earth for me, a lot of
you guys
times
can
it's
argue with each other.
Sports background, so I'll equate a little bit of going out and playing a football game, right? Before every game, you're still nervous, right? Yeah. You're still got a lot of that energy. It was the same thing on my 5th spacewalk like it was on that first one. You still have all of that kind of nervous energy as you're getting ready to go out.
Mm-hmm. Well, so right now we're still kind of waiting to get into some of the final preparations for this spacewalk. We should be coming up on seat rotation. I don't know if we missed it or not, but again, they're going to be rotating those seats to move them upright. That's just going to give the crew a little bit extra room to move around as we get into this. But for now, why don't we take a couple of moments and meet Dragon. Polaris Dawn is SpaceX's 14th human spaceflight mission since 2020, when Dragon became the first private spacecraft to take humans to the International Space Station. It's also the first private spacecraft to take an all-civilian crew to orbit during the Inspiration 4 mission in 2021. And just prior to Polaris Dawn, Dragon completed 46 launches. 13 of those are human spaceflight missions, and it's since flown 50 astronauts representing 14 different countries. Throughout all of those missions, Dragon has helped support more than 1,000 experiments in space.
Pretty incredible stats there.
Are we hearing, is that like air noise we're hearing? Is that from the capsule? Are we hearing that noise from the capsule? You can hear it, right?
And Polaris Dawn, we are rapidly expanding our knowledge of how humans will adapt, live, and...
The capsule is not open yet. The capsule is not open yet.
The safest spacecraft ever flown, the fully autonomous Dragon stands nearly 27 feet tall and 13 feet around. Dragon is capable of carrying up to 7 passengers to and from Earth orbit and beyond, but today it's carrying the 4 members of the Polaris Dawn crew. And the crew is currently living and working in the top portion of the spacecraft. It's that white section that you see there, also known as the pressurized section. This allows for the transport of people and environmentally sensitive cargo.
Below that, Dragon's trunk. It sits right below the pressurized section that can carry unpressurized cargo on resupply missions, and it remains attached to Dragon until shortly before re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. And as you can see, about half the trunk is covered in solar panels. Those provide power to Dragon during the flight. The other half is the radiator. Dragon itself is equipped with 16 Draco thrusters. We got a really cool view of the 4 forward bulkhead ones firing earlier on this flight with lights on the Earth behind you. Those are used to orient the spacecraft during the mission. They also get used for apogee and perigee raise and lower maneuvers, orbit adjustments, and attitude control. For the EVA, the Dracos are going to be used to reposition Dragon so the trunk is facing the sun, and they're also there to be used for reorientation during the spacewalk if needed.
In order to accommodate a spacewalk, this is the first Dragon to be outfitted with a Skywalker in place of the cupola observation dome. The Skywalker that you see there, looking up at it basically from underneath it, the Skywalker is a structure that is mounted to the top of the Dragon capsule, and the astronauts will use this to assist in exiting and re-entering the spacecraft during their spacewalk. The team also added additional nitrogen tanks to assist in repressurization of the capsule after the EVA. Another new feature on Dragon is the addition of a motor plus handholds and footholds inside the spacecraft to help with opening and closing the hatch during the spacewalk.
This Dragon also carrying what we are calling the Starlink plug and placer, making this the first mission on Dragon to use the Starlink network in orbit. Inside of Dragon is a router connected to a user terminal in Dragon's trunk, and then this terminal is linked to a new plug and placer device that's mounted nearby. While we're not using Starlink for continuous coverage during this operation, we've been testing its ability to establish and maintain laser communications with our Starlink satellites there in orbit that are below Dragon.
Dragon has proved to be quite a versatile spacecraft. It can autonomously dock to the space station when outfitted with the ISS docking adapter, and when it's intended for free flyer mode.
So I just want to give you guys a little update that SpaceX posted on their social media. They said the crew has been in what's known as pre-breathe since shortly after their arrival in space, which prepares them for the environment inside the EVA suits by gradually lowering Dragon's cabin pressure and increasing the oxygen concentration. All 4 crew members will be exposed to the vacuum of space once the hatch is open. Commander Isaacman and mission specialist Sarah Gillis will separately exit the vehicle for around 12 minutes each. 12 minutes each, it says, SpaceX, and perform a series of suit mobility tests during the spacewalk. I think originally they said 15 to 20 minutes each. So the post on X says around 12 minutes each, they will each of the 2 will be exiting for about 12 minutes each. Also, according to the article we read before from Associated Press, for safety, Isaacman and Gillis will always keep a foot or hand on the capsule or the ladder-like support that they'll position above the hatch. They're not going to dangle freely on their tether. They will always have a hand or foot on the capsule or the ladder-like support.
74. What was it like? Because we went over it. You literally called Dragon home during that time.
Yeah,
what was it like to live in there?
So first of all, I got to say it's pretty exciting because the Dragon that they're using right now is the Dragon that I lived in that took us to orbit.
Dragon Resilience.
Yeah, we affectionately called Resilience, and it was an amazing spacecraft. From a standpoint of living inside it, and again, it a lot of room actually compared to some of the other crew quarters that we had on board, and plus just being able to spend all that time in it. I'd call my family every night before I go to bed, and I'd be looking out the window at the Earth as I was doing that. It was very special.
Did any of them get jealous because you had the window seat?
Well,
yeah,
there was a little bit of that certainly going on up there.
Nice. Now, as you mentioned, this Dragon capsule that that the Polaris Dawn crew is flying in was previously used, really debuted on the Crew 1 mission, hence why you guys had the honor of naming it in the first place. But this capsule was also used for the Inspiration 4 mission that Jared also commanded. What is your take on this being one spacecraft, but supporting multiple missions.
I think it's fantastic. It just shows the flexibility of the design that SpaceX made when looking at the Crew Dragon vehicles. So I think it's very exciting to see a vehicle that can go from one mission to the other, and quite frankly do it quite quickly as well. I think I don't remember the exact timing from our mission and when we landed to when Inspiration 4 launched, but it wasn't a very long time, and yet you were able to take that docking adapter off, put the cupola on in a very short time, which is also pretty impressive.
I actually have that noted here. Crew 1 took off in November of 2020, and Inspiration 4 lifted off in September of 2021.
That's incredible, because we landed in May of 21, and so within that short period of time, you reconfigured the vehicle.
All right, so again, guys, this about 20 minutes until the first private spacewalk ever. Up until now, the only people who have done spacewalks are people on government missions, and where a government is organizing the mission and presumably paying for the mission. Let me just give you a quote here. A quote. Associated Press says, to date, 263 individuals representing a dozen countries have performed spacewalks. That this is going to be the first private spacewalk. And the first person out will be Jared Isaacman, who is one of the 4 crew members. He is basically, from what I've read, funding the mission, or largely funding the mission. Reuters says he is bankrolling this mission. And, oops, what is this? We got music playing?
As part of that we give to NASA astronauts, they also had to train to perform their EVA, though. For basic training at SpaceX Hawthorne, they got trained on everything from orbital mechanics to just how to live and work in microgravity. Also ran through numerous simulations of what the full mission would look like while they were seated inside of our Dragon trainer.
In addition to ensuring that they're familiar with SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft, the crew went through an extensive training regimen to build their physical endurance and mental toughness, ensuring that they are well-rounded and prepared for spaceflight and today's EVA.
Now, switching gears, one of the coolest things, designed in-house by SpaceX, the EVA suit.
The suit.
It's all the functions of our original spacesuit with the added bonus of allowing astronauts to exit the spacecraft while in orbit.
And this mission...
I can't play the music. So it does sound like that the suit they were wearing at the beginning is the EVA suit. That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah, so the Washington Post said, they have an article, the Washington Post, daring SpaceX Polaris mission aims for first spacewalk by private citizens. And they say 3 years ago, billionaire entrepreneur Jared Isaacman made history when he led the first all-private astronaut mission to orbit. Now he's spending more of his fortune on another non-government voyage, a SpaceX rocket flight that would put a crew of 4 in the highest orbit since the Apollo era. That already happened. And as well, and even more dramatically, have them open the hatch and perform the first spacewalk by private astronauts. Okay. Isaacman, who is worth an estimated $2 billion, has not disclosed how much he is paying SpaceX for the flight.
Pressurized.
Well, they're still playing music. They're still playing music. We're very close. We are very close. Thank you, Alicia Alexander, for your support. I really appreciate that, Alicia. Also, thanks to ProClicker for subscribing, and A Moment of Lovely, thanks for gifting a sub. And hey, thanks to our moderators who are here at this late/early hour. A Moment of Lovely, Big Ball of Yarn, LB Prairie Dawn, Surly Dev over on Twitch, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley over on Facebook, Ronald Egnor on YouTube. We have Ruth Krafasi is there. Danny James. Hey, Danny, how are you? Thanks for being here. And Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X. So I do not have captions for this broadcast here, this SpaceX via Reuters broadcast. I'm sorry about that. But Normally there's captions on our broadcast, but I don't see them right. Are they there right now on YouTube? No, I think sometimes when we're playing other video, the auto captions don't work. Anyways, so I'm sorry about that, but I have no control over that. Hey, thanks to Crypto King, our member, by the way. So we're bringing you live coverage. We're going to have that. They're going to have multiple camera angles of these spacewalks, guys. So hopefully everything goes fine. Hopefully everybody stays safe. No one has ever been killed or seriously injured during a spacewalk. That's not to say it is not a risky activity. I read you a quote in an article before from the Associated Press. Spacewalking is considered the most dangerous part of any flight after launch and re-entry and demands extensive training. So let's hope everything goes okay with this spacewalk. But they're gonna have multiple camera angles, and we'll hear the audio from the communications from the ground to the spacecraft, and we'll be covering it. We are covering it, but we'll see in just a few minutes, assuming everything's going to schedule. Hey, thanks to Debbie James for the gift memberships. That's really nice of you, Debbie. Thank you. Make sure Debbie just gave 20 people memberships. Make sure you thank Debbie if she gave you a membership. Thank you, Debbie. Okay. But now in theory, if something's not going right, they could call it off, so there's no guarantee it'll happen. Everything's got to be looking good with everything. SpaceX says that building a base on the moon and a city on Mars will require thousands of spacesuits. The development of this suit and the EVA performed in this mission will be important steps toward a scalable design for spacesuits on future long-duration missions. That's according to SpaceX. What did they say?
We're going to be testing the mobility.
They're still playing music, so I don't want to. They're talking about testing the suit. I believe a big part of this mission is to test the suit. Yes, SpaceX says the execution of the EVA, extravehicular activity, the execution of the spacewalk will be an important step toward a scalable design for spacesuits on future long-duration missions. Yeah, I mean, we heard before they're going to do mobility tests of the suit. How far is the walk? They're not going anywhere. They're always going to have a hand or foot on the spacecraft or the ladder-like structure. Yeah, some of our viewers mentioned radiation. So this craft already went higher than any human did since 1972. And that did expose them to some radiation. Let me just read you a little about that. Hold on a second here. We'll get the audio back up when the music stops playing. So Wikipedia says that on this mission, they passed through parts of the Van Allen radiation belt to study the human effects of space radiation and spaceflight on the human body. And the Dragon capsule was initially, the Dragon capsule, according to Wikipedia, was initially placed in an elliptic orbit with a high point of 756 miles. This exposes the crew to the equivalent radiation of 3 months on the International Space Station in just a few passes, enabling valuable research into the health effects of the space radiation and spaceflight on the human body. So they got the equivalent of 3 months of the International Space Station in a few passes of their orbit. The orbit, I believe, has been lowered now. That was from Wikipedia. Zach T says, finally find Steve on at a reasonable UK time. All right. Hopefully everything is going to schedule. We're getting very close to this, guys. We are getting very close.
That we have towards
Still
getting
playing
to the
this. They're
moon.
still playing this video thing, but it's 5:48. About 10 minutes. Oh, hold on. Let's go back to the audio.
Suit, but the space operations for the EVA itself came together and were developed. Now we are still counting down to the spacewalk this morning. The crew on board is completing final fit-ups, and we're going to be standing by for seat rotation and suit leak checks. So we're continuing to truck along to the main event.
Is this
now,
delayed
Mike,
at all?
You obviously went through some of the suit-up process that we saw in that package.
I feel like they were saying before we were like that they were expecting the seat rotation to have happened. I don't know. I wonder if something is taking longer than expected. I can't remember the specifics of what they said. I kind of feel like maybe things are taking a bit longer than expected. Did anybody else get that vibe? I don't know. I don't think we'll know that. So, for example, the original spacewalk was supposed to be, I think, at 2:20 something, and they delayed it, and they did not say at all why. SpaceX just announced, like, oh, everything's a go for 5:58 a.m. Everybody's like, okay. So they did not publicly announce why it got delayed from 2 whatever to 5:58. So I don't know that this is going to happen at 5:58.
What are kind of the sensational differences from being in like the IVA suit? Because a lot of times the IVA suit, when it gets pressurized.
Let me say this. I'm going to say this. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if at some point they say, you know what? It's going to be tomorrow or something. Because I believe they have a window to do it tomorrow. And there's no explanation. So that could happen.
During a launch or a landing. And so that's that case where either you have a fire or you have a depress event, and so that suit's going to pressurize. And so in that case, we're not as worried about like the mobility of the suit. You just want to get home and do it in a safe way. And so you need to have enough mobility to still be able to control the spacecraft and do the things you need to do, but you're just not as worried about it because you're not trying to perform a maintenance activity or something like that when you're going out on a spacewalk. And so I think that's one of the biggest differences between the IVA suit and the EVA suit is just what the purpose of it is and what you're trying to do with it.
Yeah, that feedback loop is so important to be able to communicate what feels good, what doesn't, because I imagine, as you're out there and having to perform, as you mentioned, maintenance activities, among other things, that the functionality of your body is critical to perform those.
This also feels like the point at the video where they're just kind of filling time waiting for the spacewalk. So, which I understand. I don't, it's 5:51. So now maybe at 5:58 they'll just cut to the hatch opening. But I don't know. I wonder if something got delayed.
Pressurized suit like that, and you're constantly you are overcoming the pressure of the suit, and your hands can get just exhausted, and you can get those hot spots. I had some issues with my EMU gloves.
Hey, thanks. Hey, Janet Burnett. That's really kind of you, Janet. I really appreciate all your support for the channel. Janet Burnett, very generous of you. Thank you so much, Janet Burnett.
And so there's just little things like that it really matters how well that suit fits and how well it functions. And
they got to make sure everything's working perfectly, because when that hatch opens, all 4 of them are relying on their suits to survive, to breathe. There can't be suit leaks. Everything's got to be working properly. This is not. You're not playing around when you're opening the hatch up to the vacuum of space. So, maybe it's possible that something is not working correctly, or maybe everything's going fine. I don't know. We just don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
A very long process. It's usually just a few minutes.
Now Mika says, The hatch won't open until 30 minutes after 6 a.m. EST after EVA has started. Yeah, I don't know the whole procedure for everything. I don't know. See, it says suit donning, and oh yeah. So look, they haven't done seat rotation yet, for example. So she said earlier seat rotation. You can actually see on your screen it says seat rotation. But I thought she said earlier, the SpaceX announcer, that she was expecting them to get to seat rotation already.
Kind of unique because all 4 of our crew members are going to be doing the spacewalk. They're all going to be exposed to the vacuum of space. But I mean, even when you did spacewalks, it's never a solo act, right? Like you're always out there with a partner.
You are. It's extremely important. In fact, one of the hardest parts about our training for spacewalks is what we call incapacitated crew. And so you need to always be able to get your crewmate back into the airlock if something should happen, if they should no longer be conscious and something of that nature. And so we actually do spend quite a bit of time, and that's why it's extremely important for us to go out in pairs, because things can go wrong. And so you want to be prepared for those moments.
Yeah. That's a great point, Dan, to make that while only Jared and Sarah are going to be somewhat exiting the spacecraft, all 4 crew members are going to be exposed to the vacuum of space, and it's actually going to set a new record for most number of people exposed to, or not them without a suit, but in the vacuum of gravity all at the same time. Yeah,
that's actually interesting. I never actually thought of that piece of this mission, and the fact that you're going to have 4 people on a spacewalk. I know at one point on a shuttle mission we had three folks outside on a spacewalk. And so, yeah, that's a big deal and kind of exciting. One of the things we do on the space station, of course, is we have astronauts that are still inside. And if we do get into those emergency situations, they're there prepared to help us get back into the airlock.
So Marcia Smith, who is a space journalist, Marcia Smith with spacepolicyonline.com, she just posted, the spacewalk should happen pretty soon. It was rescheduled to 5:58 from 2:23, but on the webcast it says they're still doing suit checks. So she's saying that things seem to be going more slowly too. By the way, hold on.
Copy that for seat rotation. Can you confirm crew is ready with the current glove zipper ups?
Oh, looks like we're moving forward here. Look, guys, seat rotation. Here we go. Looks like we're progressing here.
All right, I guess they just needed me to say it was coming soon, and then there it is. But we are going to hear the seat rotation coming up soon. Again, they're in the recline position.
And I'll do standby well to get them to the seat.
Copy. Standing by.
So they're going to get those seats rotated, and then we're pretty much going to be ready to start getting into things. And our EVA is going to officially start when we start flowing O2 into those suits. And so that'll kind of start our clock. We're going to be showing you some of the telemetry. So all those numbers at the bottom of your screen, you've got a couple right now. That one all the way in the bottom left corner, that's your Dragon. That's your Dragon cabin pressure. That's in PSI.
SpaceX Dragon, you're ready for seat rotation.
SpaceX copies. Initiating seat rotation.
Initiating seat rotation.
Great news there. That's going to help give the crew a little bit more room to move around during the spacewalk.
There you go.
And after we get through the seat rotation, we'll be able to perform those suit leak checks that we were just talking about.
Yeah, before they do that, they'll do what's called a tear. So it's kind of like if you're ever using a scale, you zero out the scale before you put something on it. It's essentially what we're doing with the suits. They'll get like a baseline reading. And then as we start to actually pressurize the suits, we'll be able to measure that against the baseline, make sure everybody's got basically a nice seal before we start that vent.
Yeah, that one's pretty important.
That was pretty important. Yeah, so a lot of that's coming up. Again, some of the data on your screen, you've got cabin pressure, you've got suit pressure.
Dragon SpaceX, seat rotation complete and nominal.
Seat rotation complete.
All right, seat rotation's complete, so now they're going to start doing that tear, getting ready.
Dragon, copy, just the phone.
Copy.
Awaiting
And can
prep
I get a
suit leak
confirmation
check.
of completion per the call out in 2.18?
H1 SpaceX complete with 2.18.
Copy. At this time, you are go to step into Section 3 and tear suit deucers.
Thanks so much, PZ Papa Zulu. Thank you, PZ Papa Zulu.
Just a quick reminder, in case if you missed the top of the show, we're going to be referring to the crew a little differently for the EVA activity than we were previously. So we heard Anna talk EV1. That was referring to Jared. So basically his call sign for this spacewalk operation is EV1. Sarah's call sign will be EV2. Anna will be support 2, and Scott will be support 1. Also, Scott and Sarah are switching seats. Perhaps they already have. Yeah.
Copy. Standby for HUD power for pressure sensor checkouts.
Okay, so our suit tear completed. So next up is going to be the HUD checkout. So the HUD, your heads-up display.
Very excited about this.
Really excited about this. And Mike, I'd love to kind of get your perspective on this real quick. We do have on your screen, though, that's your seat order. So you've got EV1. Jared is in that seat. He's going to be in that seat right now, but once we actually get ready to open the hatch and everything, he's going to be positioned kind of over by the hatch. And then Sarah, EV2, is going to be in one of those center seats. Then you'll have Anna and Kid on either side.
Dragon SpaceX, suit HUD's powered. Report results of primary sensor HUD checks in 3.2.
So again, that's our seat layout. We just heard the HUDs are powered on, so they've got heads-up displays actually being kind of projected on their visor in their helmet, which if you've ever seen spacesuits, that's always kind of felt like that's that space age technology that we're missing. Because Mike, you guys use kind of a simpler but a little unorthodox way to see like your suit data.
Yeah, that's right, Dan. It's of course the suits.
And SpaceX HUD checkout complete, all nominal.
Nice.
Copy. Swapping to backup sensors. Stand by to repeat HUD checks.
So, of course, the suits that we use for the spacewalks on station are a little bit older. They've been around for quite a while, and so some of this technology,
There they are.
It's our first live views inside Dragon Resilience for this morning.
There's the crew
That's
with their
fantastic.
suits on. The hatch is going to open soon.
I think this is the definition of chillin'.
Yeah.
So they're out of his seat. That's Commander Jared, who, like I mentioned before, will be referred to as EV1. Behind him, we can see already in his new seat, pilot Scott Kidd Poteet. He will be support 1. And then moving around in front of us is Sarah, who will be EV2. And then just out of view underneath the camera, but I think you can see her visor, is Anna Menon, who is support 2.
Dragon SpaceX, we're on backup sensors. Repeat HUD checks.
Crew's going to check out those heads-up displays one more time real quick.
SpaceX HUD checkouts on backup sensors, all nominal.
Copy. Good HUDs. Returning to primary. Stand by for helmet camera checkouts.
On that heads-up display, they'll be able to see the O2 flow timer. That's kind of like our mission clock, essentially, like once the O2 has started to flow to their seats, and they know they've got about an hour and 50 minutes, just under 2 hours for the whole time. They'll be able to see their suit pressure, temperature. Basically, it's a way to kind of keep an eye on things. And we were talking about it a little bit, Mike, but on the EMU is a little bit different.
Yeah, the EMU is certainly different. A lot of that kind of information is on a on a display right in front of you that you have to kind of look down to see, and it can be pretty challenging to see. In fact, a lot of the information you have to use a mirror on your wrist to be able to read it and know what you're controlling as well. You mentioned the timer. Of course, we don't have that kind of information on ours, and I'm not sure I'd want to know that because I'd feel the pressure of, hey, I got to get a lot of things done and I'm running out of time. Yeah.
All right. So they're going through these HUD checkouts again pretty soon.
Dragon SpaceX powering on helmet cams.
Helmet cams. Helmet cams coming on. They're going to have helmet cams
powered on. Again, give you that kind of look right over their shoulders.
Yeah, pretty excited for these. We've seen them utilized during the training sessions that the crew has undergone, and we're so excited to see them live today. Yeah,
I tell you, the helmet cameras, I mean, it's going to be fantastic views, right, that we're all going to love. But there's also a very important role for those cameras as well. Like when we have the same thing, we have helmet cameras with the EMUs, and what it allows is your ground team.
Dragon SpaceX suit cameras powered. Confirm good health.
Suit cameras are working. We're going to be seeing the view from the helmet.
So it really allows your ground teams to kind of be able to see what you're doing and
SpaceX is to get video on jet speeds, no thoughts.
And almost double check your work.
Copy. Checkout's complete. HUDs will remain powered. Proceed to step 3.3, operations review through 3.8, report when complete.
Oh, they're over the U.S. Awaiting EVA go, no-go. Awaiting spacewalk go, no-go, guys.
All right, so we got through HUD checks. We got cameras on, powered, ready to go. So right now the crew is going to go through. They're going to do kind of a final review of all of their procedures. Like you talked about this a little bit, like these things are so choreographed because even if you couldn't see the clock, like you're on the clock. So you've really got to make the most out of like every single second you're doing one of these.
You do. And of course you see that with today's spacewalk as well.
Dragon SpaceX repeating. Checkouts are complete. HUDs are going to remain powered. Proceed to step 3.3, operations review through 3.8 and report when complete.
The HUD is a display which projects the information in front of their eyes, so they don't have to look away.
And the reason it's so choreographed and important is because you only have so much time outside, right? You only have so many consumables that allow you to go out there, and so you want to take advantage of all of that, and you want to have every step very well scripted so that there's not a lot of wasted time. Now, that being said, it is nice when you're out there once in a while to just kind of take a moment, look around, enjoy the views, kind of trying to absorb where you actually are, which can be pretty incredible as well.
Every once in a while, guys, I'm a little tired. I'm going to take a minute.
That's right. I need to take
we will see the spacewalk. We're going to see the spacewalk, guys.
All right, but like it's awesome. We're seeing the crew inside. We're getting close to the start of today's spacewalk. We're going to start flowing O2 to the suits, and that's when our clock's going to start. Right now, they're just doing kind of final cabin configurations. They're going to check the lighting. They're going to make sure that their umbilicals are in the right spot. That's one of the things you'll see. That's actually one of the roles that our support crew members are really going to. That's kind of one of their primary jobs during the spacewalk is to manage those umbilicals. For you guys, Mike, you had one. That's what plugs into kind of the leg in your suit, and that's what's providing like the breathing gas, comms, connections, all of that stuff. For the spacewalk today, it's a little bit different. This one that they're going to be using has some tethers in it for Sarah and Jared. It's about 12 feet long, so it's like about double the length of what you guys have.
So it's dual purpose, right? It's providing them the air and the cooling that they need while they're out on the spacewalk, but it's also providing that safety piece, right? So that if something should happen, they should slip or that they're not going to go floating off into space. With the EMU that we use on the space station, we actually, all of those consumables are a part of the suit itself, and we have a separate safety tether that the first thing we do when we open that
one of our viewers just said there's Earth out the window.
An 85-foot reel that as you're moving around, it goes out with you to, again, protect for that crazy moment when maybe an emergency happens and you come off station.
How hard was it to manage all of those tethers? I feel like every time I watched, it was like, there's no way in heck that this thing isn't getting snagged
So
on
guys, they're not yet, the oxygen is not flowing to their spacesuits yet. So I guess it's considered a spacewalk once they're actually breathing through their spacesuits. That's my understanding. But again, the hatch is going to open. Even the people who aren't outside, there's going to be one goes outside, then another one goes outside. But the people inside are just as exposed to the vacuum of space as the people outside. There's no airlock on this, so they will all be using their spacesuits to breathe and survive.
And it can really be pretty challenging.
It's important, though. We simplified that a little bit for this mission. We actually basically built in that tether into the umbilical, one of which you can see actually there floating under Jared's right arm. So not only does that provide airflow and comms and all the normal connections that we have in the umbilicals, but we also added that strength to provide that protection.
Yeah, and the managing of that tether is extremely important because, you know, as they go out, if it can get tangled up and you actually see Sarah,
he's reaching for the hatch.
Around, right?
He's reaching for the hatch. What's happening?
In this environment,
Is he going to open the hatch soon?
SpaceX Dragon EVA off review complete. Crew are in position for EVA start.
Crew are in position for EVA start.
Excellent news.
Copies, crew in position.
But you saw Sarah kind of move the tether out of the way, and the part of that is that's actually impacting Jared.
SpaceX, you are go to command Vox triggered push to talk, all seats.
He's about to open the hatch, I think. I think he's going to open the hatch now.
Copy, North.
Check it out.
And so this'll be one of the unique things about the spacewalk today. It'll feel familiar if you watch some of Mike's spacewalks. The crew is going to go over to what's called Vox.
Push to talk is set. Go for comm check.
EV1, com check.
EV2, comm check.
Support 1, com check.
Support 2, comm check.
SpaceX copies all, good comms, all 4 crew.
EV1, EV2, Support 1, and Support 2 are all 4 of them. They're calling each other that for this. EV1,
so essentially
EV2.
now all of our crew are on open mics. They can all talk and hear each other, and they can talk to the ground. And so you're going to hear a lot more chatter start to pick up. Once we start the suit pressurization, you're going to hear almost like a sound. That's just the air starting to flow into their suits. How loud does it get inside your suit?
It actually is quite loud. That airflow is just constantly, which is a good thing, right? Because not only is it providing you the oxygen, but it's also helping get rid of that CO2 that you're breathing out. So you want that airflow to be constantly going, and so you always are hearing that fan that's making that happen. And so that is certainly pretty important. And the Vox thing, I got to say, you know, it's nice that you don't have to push a button when you're outside there to talk.
Dragon SpaceX, we're about 90 seconds.
They fist bump.
Initiation.
They fist bump. They're fist bumping.
Got some fist bumps going on.
Yeah.
I think they said about 90 seconds.
And we just heard we're about 90 seconds from EVA initiation. So we should see them get the go to close their visors, and then they're going to open up one of the O2 valves on their suits to start the suit purge, and that's going to be the official start of our spacewalk today. So we'll get through the final goes, and then we'll see those visors get closed, oxygen start flowing, and we'll be off.
I love how everyone looks so calm and collected right now. I think that's a great visualization of just all the extensive training that they've gone through to get to this point. This has been years in the making. I'm sure they're excited, but everyone's focused.
It is an interesting time right now, right? Because one of the hardest parts I always found about
Dragon SpaceX. SpaceX is go for spacewalk operations. Report visors down, ready for secondary O2 flow initiation, and crew is go for spacewalk.
Crew is go for spacewalk, guys.
Verify your visors are closed.
Wow, get ready.
Secondary O2 valve is open.
The first spacewalker will be Jared Isaacman, the billionaire entrepreneur who, according to multiple articles I've read, is paying for the flight.
For the EVA.
Two astronauts will go out each for around 12 minutes.
Support 1 is go.
Support 2 is go.
Dragon SpaceX initiating secondary O2.
They are flowing O2 oxygen to the suits.
And with that news, our EVA has begun.
The EVA has technically begun.
So you're going to hear it referred to as primary and secondary O2. Primary is going to be that primary flow of oxygen to pressurize. Secondary is largely putting oxygen into their suits to help with cooling, but secondary is the first one we turn on. And so our O2 flow timer has started. The EVAs start at 3:12 a.m. Pacific. I'll do the math on UTC in a little bit. So this first operation, or this first step in the operation, is a suit purge. So inside their suit, obviously when the visor is still open, it's still a nitrox environment. It's the same as the cabin. And since they're going to be at a lower pressure than what you can basically live at with oxygen levels, they're going to be on pure O2. They're going to be a 100% oxygen environment. And I mean, you guys were kind of in the same thing. And it's because like your suit, you can't move a suit around at 14.7 psi, can you?
No,
maybe you can, but like
no, that'd be pretty tough to do. And as we had talked about earlier, that's why that mobility is so important, because when that suit is pressurized like that, it can be challenging to move around.
Absolutely. So here on your screen, we can see the Polaris Dawn crew. Now with their visors down, the EVA has begun. We are beginning to flow that O2 through. Now, we will, of course, bring these views to you as we have them, but due to ground station coverage, they do come in and out here and there. But every moment that we can, we will certainly be sharing these with you. I also wanted to point out quickly that the window near kids' feet was so much brighter than it was just even 5 minutes ago. We're going to be seeing that in stark contrast as soon as we get the EVA, or with the hatch open and EV1 out there. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting you mentioned that, because as you're going around the Earth as fast as you are, right, in 30 minutes or 45 minutes or so, you can be passing in and out of that sun and going into shadow. And so that brings its challenges as well, because the temperature can change pretty drastically just in those transitions from night to daylight, and so it's an interesting moment when you're passing through that time. That's actually one of the reasons that the visors have this new coating on them, different than when you wore a similar helmet. That coating actually helps to insulate the individual inside the suit, so when they're looking at the sun.
Dragon SpaceX. A reminder, after the initiation of primary O2 flow, EV1, EV2 will need to adjust VOX threshold low following primary O2 flow initiation.
EV1 copies.
EV2 copies.
Guys, EV1, EV2...
Dragon SpaceX, secondary flow purge complete. Close secondary O2 valves and report ready for suit pressurization.
EV1 closed.
EV2 closed.
Support 1 closed.
Support 2 closed. SpaceX Dragon is ready for suit pressurization.
Suit pressurization. EV1, EV2, Support 1, and Support 2 are all them. The suits are getting pressurized now.
This is normal. This is with the airflow coming through. The crew members are on VOX, meaning that their microphone is on the whole time. So Sarah and Jared are going to be adjusting their audio levels as this flow continues to help regulate that.
Yeah, the VOX will kind of attenuate, so it'll sound like this now, but as we get through the spacewalk, it'll kind of come down, and you'll just hear voices a little bit more clearly. Their voices are actually going to change too. Like, did Did that happen to you? Did that throw you, Mike, the first time you heard that?
It absolutely did, yeah, because you're talking and you're going, who is that, right? 'Cause you don't realize how much different it can sound.
Yeah.
Your voice can sound in that lower pressure environment.
Yeah. Speaking of lower pressure, we can see the pressure changing there with the telemetry in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. So we can see that suit pressure going up, and we're able to keep tabs there as well with the Dragon pressure. So Dragon on the far left circle, that's the pressure within the cabin, and then suit, obviously that's the pressure within the suits. So we'll actually be able to, and I think we've kind of been able to see it already, that these suits will inflate a little bit.
Wow.
Look a little different.
Look at the lower left.
And
you
we
can see the cabin pressure and the suit pressure
so
on the
when they're in
lower
the
left.
Sunlight, that coating will help
Down
keep them
here.
cool and not overheat them. And then when they're in shadow, it'll help keep them warm. So,
and it's also like your sunglasses as well.
Yeah.
Right? Serves that purpose.
See how the suit pressure on the lower left is now much greater than the cabin pressure?
The suits are getting their primary pressurization. This takes about 3.5 minutes, a little bit less, and then we're going to go through those actual suit leak checks. The crew will probably get a reminder. They have to stay really still when we do those leak checks, and I always was kind of wondering, like, why the heck? And like, if you bend your arms, you're actually going to start, changing the volume inside the suit. That'll cause pressure spikes, and so
that's right.
You got to stay really still.
Yep.
Crazy.
And then after we get through the leak checks, we're going to go through kind of that final pre-breathe where they're going to hang out in that 100% O2 environment just to continue purging all of that excess nitrogen.
Suit pressure stable when purge complete. Activate secondary flow on. Report when complete.
EV1 open. Support 1 open. Support 2 open.
Again, EV1, EV2, Support 1, and Support 2 are the astronauts. That's what they're calling each other. EV1,
and right
EV2,
there,
Support 1, and Support 2.
The purge, and they did a quick reinitiation of that secondary flow check.
Response, close secondary flow, and report when complete.
EV1 closed.
SpaceX, can you confirm secondary flow is closed?
These handles that we see Jared holding on to, these were one of the additions or customizations for this mission that we talked about earlier.
Support 1, SpaceX contact.
We got you.
All right, copy. Got support 1.
All right, what's happening here? He's moving. Uh-oh, hatch. We got the hatch. Is the hatch opening?
Copy.
Wow.
Dragon SpaceX beginning suit leak check evaluation and then still for leak checks.
Zach says the hatch opening is still a while away.
Once again, that background noise is expected. That is the microphones and the flow of air within the suits. So we're trying to stay quiet to, along with you, listen in on what the crew comms are as they go through. We're also going to get views in and out, as we mentioned before, due to ground station coverage.
Yes, awaiting cabin venting. Awaiting cabin venting.
And it is a little bit tough to hear. We just heard, though, that we got 4 good leak checks on their suits, and now they're going to be in this final suited pre-breathe.
So
again,
the
this
cabin,
is going to last about 19 or so minutes, and this is just to do kind of that final, get all of the excess nitrogen out. And we started pre-breathe just two hours after they got on orbit, just by gradually lowering the pressure.
Yeah.
And I mean, pre-breathe, that's something that kind of evolved over time with the space station. Where were you when you were doing your spacewalks?
Yeah, so we were past the kind of the camp out phase of pre-breathe.
All right, so again, they're still doing leak checks on the spacesuits, and then they have to, I guess, they have to vent the cabin. So they want to get all the, all the air they got to get out of the cabin, and make it like the vacuum of space. So anyways, they just said a little while ago that it's still like around 19 minutes left, I guess, until Jared Isaacman goes out. 2 of them are going to go out. The first is Jared Isaacman, who is a billionaire entrepreneur who is helping to pay for this mission. Hey, thanks to Night Owl 76. That's very kind of you, Night Owl 76. Thank you.
And some additional Polaris and SpaceX crew members actually went into a vacuum chamber and tested these suits out and spent a bit of time at lower pressure just to help learn what that feels like and get used to it.
Well, and I think the other thing that's important about that is it's real, right? It's the first time that you're in that suit and it's actually a vacuum around you, right? And there's just something mentally that I think is important to put people through those moments before you actually have to experience the first time in space.
Yep.
We saw some of the unique ways we trained the crew for this. And I mean, training for space station spacewalks, I'm still really upset I never got in the pool. That looks like one of the coolest parts of being an astronaut is not being in space, but just doing some of this training.
Yeah, Dan, I tell you, I can still remember the first time I stuck my head underwater, not in the suit, but for diving. But you can hear the comms of everything that's going on through the water like that, and it just gives me goosebumps to think about that. It was a really neat environment, but it looks like these guys had a pretty neat way to train as well with the harness that would hoist them up and out and all of that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we definitely created some rigorous new training for the best we could simulate an EVA while still on Earth.
By the way, the Washington Post says the spacewalk is intended to test SpaceX's new spacesuit, which is designed to protect the astronauts from the extreme thermal environment in space, as well as against radiation. Ultimately, SpaceX intends to use the spacesuits for astronauts on the Moon and Mars as well. SpaceX's Dragon capsule does not have an airlock, meaning all 4 crew members would need to put on their spacesuits as they open the hatch.
Communication with the astronauts are through TDRS, so tracking and data relay satellites. So we'll have constant audio, but that video, we need those ground stations. But right now they're in that pre-breathe. That final pre-breathe still. We started our spacewalk about 13 minutes ago. We initiated O2 flow to the suits. That time was 3:12 a.m. Pacific, 10:12 UTC. I did some quick math. Took me 13 minutes to do it, but I did it. So once they're through this pre-breathe, we're going to start getting into some really exciting parts of the spacewalk. And then after we get through the pre-breathe, we're going to get to cabin vents. So, what's going through your head when you're like, man,
it's happening.
The air's going out.
It's really happening.
It's happening.
Yeah, I tell you, it is a long process to get to this point, right? They've been prepping for this for 2 days, right? And one of the hardest things I found about the spacewalks is the waiting.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait, right? You are so ready to go out and to do this mission and to go out that hatch, and it just takes time. And I think that's one of the things you talked about, my 5th versus my 1st. your fifth, you kind of understand how long it's going to take. You have a better appreciation for how long it's going to take. And so you literally find yourself in these moments when you're kind of waiting through this pre-breathe, or you're waiting for the airlock to depressurize. You just kind of find yourself just floating there, kind of zoning out, trying to keep yourself calm and relaxed, and until that moment when it's game time.
Yeah. Now, just a quick mention, we're about a minute out until we get those views back inside the cabin. The view that we had previously was our Dragon tracker, which if you want to see where Dragon is, you can actually look that up as well. We have it on our website, spacex.com/follow-dragon. But yeah, just as a reminder, our crew, they are in their designated, or well, Jared's not, but our crew members, basically Sarah and Kid, have switched their seats for the EVA. Last time we were able to see inside the cabin, we saw Jared awaiting to open the hatch. So he wasn't in his commander seat, but Sarah is now sitting in Scott's pilot seat, also known as seat 3. And then Anna is on the far left side, and Scott is on the, oh yeah, we can see it there, on the far right side. And also just a reminder, their call signs for these EVA operations, Anna being support 2, Kid being support 1, and then Sarah being EV2 and Jared EV1, representing that Jared will exit first, do his activities, which include just some mobility testing of the suit, and then Sarah will go out and perform the exact same testing once Jared comes in. Meanwhile, Kid and Anna will function as the eyes and ears. They will be performing their own list of operations during, or their own list of tasks during the EVA. So while Sarah and Jared are going to be the ones that are, partially egressing the capsule once that forward door is open, Kid and Anna will also be performing an EVA in their own right.
That's right. And we talked about it earlier, first time 4 people exposed to the vacuum of space. There's a lot of firsts in this. That's going to be a really cool first, not just for us and Dragon. But we are going to be getting views back really soon. We're, again, just in that final pre-breathe step right now. And then we're going to start venting Dragon down to near vacuum. So we're going to have a couple of different valves that are going to open up, and the atmosphere inside Dragon is going to start going overboard out into the vacuum of space. Now, the crew, the ground, they can pause that cabin venting if they need to. We can pause and resume. The most likely reason is for ear equalization, is again, you're going through a lot of pressure changes anytime you do a spacewalk. And so if you've ever flown on an airplane and your ears popped, you've experienced just a little bit of what they might be going through right now. Once we start cabin venting, if we terminate or abort the spacewalk during that venting, we cannot start again. We talked a little bit earlier about how consumables are the thing that really drives you. And for us, we don't have a great big airlock with this, with a full station's worth of oxygen and stuff like that. So
suited pre-breathe complete. Confirm freelance for venting at pre-breathe complete.
EV1's go.
Forward go. Support keep down.
Copy, initiating cabin venting.
There we go.
That is great news.
Exciting.
So that breathing of increase.
Cabin venting is underway.
Pre-breathe, where they were breathing increased oxygen. We just heard that they're good. They all 4 crew members gave the go. So now we're gonna vent the cabin.
Watch the lower left. Look at the lower left. See how it's going. The pressure's going down on the lower left. It says 8.1.
Yeah, in total,
8.0. 7.9. Lower left, guys. Now, why is the suit pressure going down? Is that how they do it?
In total, this will take about 8 minutes, and the graphics you see on your screen, that's live telemetry, everybody. So you can see the pressure inside Dragon starting to tick down. You're going to see the suit pressure tick down as well, is what we're really trying to maintain as a pressure differential. And so with these suits, we're going to be hovering right around 5 or so. You might see about 4.9 to 5.1, 5.2. It'll be about 4.9, and then we'll probably see it go up a little bit when they reinitiate the secondary flow for cooling.
Copy 7.
The pressure is going down in the cabin.
David, you talked about that, about 5 psi is what the suit will be. We're actually a little bit lower in the EMU.
Yeah.
And so we've talked a lot about mobility. That difference between we're at 4.2 and they're going to be at 5, it can actually make quite a bit of difference just in how hard it can be to move the suit around, et cetera.
Yeah, this crew got to, and that's something we can simulate, you know, in a vacuum chamber or even just in 14.7. You can simulate that differential pressure. Getting calls from the crew. They're monitoring along.
ED1 pin.
Waiting for them to open the hatch soon.
We're going to hear that chorus pretty frequently, where you do those kind of frequent, almost like check-ins. And I know you guys did something kind of similar where like you would have to pause and, you know, check your gloves, that kind of stuff.
We did. I will tell you, one of the interesting things watching this live right now, the difference is how quickly the depressurization is happening here versus what my experience was. And so you talked about being able to clear your ears and all that. You're not giving a lot of time for your ears to adapt to that lower pressure. So this seems pretty quick to me.
Yeah, breaking new ground with this, new suits, new operations for everything. We're at about 4.5. We're going to see that tick down. It's going to get down to just under 1, and it's not going to go all the way down. And then what we'll actually see is we've got a capability to open the hatch automatically. We've got a motor in it, but Jared's actually going to unlatch it, and he's going to give it a little tug to kind of break the seal, any of the kind of the stiction in the hatch itself, and that's going to kind of take the capsule down to its final vent before Sarah, who's at the displays, she's going to command the hatch to actually open.
That's a good point. And you know, there will be slightly more pressure inside the capsule, so really just helping.
4 psi, seat pressures look good.
Waiting for the cabin pressure to go below around 1, go to around 1.
So Jared really can't open the hatch all in one fluid motion, so we will see him release that pressure slightly before being able to open it completely.
And I think one of the important things, you guys, I think I talked earlier about you put some more restraint devices inside the capsule from when I flew on it. And that's extremely important because there's going to be some force that Jared's going to have to be pulling down on, and he needs to be able to anchor his feet somehow. Otherwise, he's going to pull and it's not going to go anywhere. And so the new restraint devices in there, we're going to see how important that's going to become here when he tries to open that hatch.
Yeah,
that's one of the
private
things that's
spacewalk.
Why we have Skywalker out there. We've talked about how kind of similar to Gemini when they were first kind of stressing their legs, but important to remember we've got that 50 or 60 years of spaceflight history that we're able to draw on. These are new suits. This is a new operation. This is to, you know, work out all the kinks and really test this for the first time. But we're going into this with a whole lot more information than they had back then. We know you need handrails or it's going to get real hard real quick.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Guys, 263 people. 263 people have ever taken spacewalks, and they've all been on government missions. So this is the first private spacewalk it's technically started, but Jared Isaacman is going to be going outside of the capsule soon. But they will all be exposed to the vacuum of space.
Taking it longer for that remaining little bit of air to go out through the vents.
And TD1, com check.
TD1, loud and clear.
Loud and clear as well.
And also hear the Vox starting to adjust its levels.
Yeah.
That flow of oxygen has not stopped, but the microphone's kind of adjusted and it's getting a little bit clearer. And yeah, keep an ear out. You might hear their voices start to like tenor down a little bit.
We're waiting for the cabin pressure to get down to about 1. It's at 2.4
I do think that's
now.
an important point, Dan, that how important comm is.
Yeah.
right? And when it's compromised a little bit just by that extra airflow and the Vox not keeping up with it right away, how challenging it was just to hear those calls, and they can be some pretty important calls.
Of course.
Comm is just critical.
We can see Dragon capsule now approaching close to 2 psia. Like Dan mentioned earlier, that's going to get to just under 1.
Just under 1.
It's incredible to think that, you know, the Dragon capsule in all of its power and glory and awesomeness, the new capsule is around their bodies, right?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
what is going to protect them from the vacuum of space. And, you know, just seeing how, even though it's puffed up and we know that it's, you know, holding that pressure, it still looks so cool, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word.
Easy one's good.
EDQ's good.
Oh, we're good. Supply 2 dead.
Yeah, you really have 4 mini spaceships in there.
Pressure approaching 2 psi.
I guess that means we have 4 aliens in there too.
Yeah, that's right.
Dragon SpaceX, less than 1 psi from hatch operating pressure. We have a TDRS handover in 2 minutes. We are going to wait until after the TDRS handover to command into hatch open prep.
Getting close to the hatch opening, guys. The next thing on the bottom is the next step is hatch open.
Yeah, I think you heard that the
hatch
TDRS
open
handover.
prep.
So there's going to be a short period of time there where they're out of comm, and it's kind of interesting because we're at a very critical phase as well, and so you want to make sure you have all the data and the ability to talk to the astronauts before you actually take that next critical step.
The next step is hatch open prep. But their spacesuits are what's protecting them right now.
Pressure continue to take
That's
down.
how they're staying alive right now, is their spacesuits.
Dragon originally designed to be able to still operate in a vacuum. That was some of the emergency situations I know you trained for, Mike. We did make some modifications to this one to essentially turn Dragon into a functional airlock. We added some additional vent paths. We do use like some of the same ones that you guys use to like pressurize the vestibule and stuff like that. That are actually in the hatch, but we've got an extra one in there to be able to essentially do that depress as quickly as we did. But we're gonna see that get down to a little under 1, and then we're gonna see Jared kind of jump into action. He's gonna unlatch the hatch, and then he's gonna give it a little pull to break the initial stiction, and then we're gonna be able to see Sarah.
1.5 psia. All suits look good.
Pressure's almost at 1. It's at 1.4 in the cabin.
One thing to note that while we have been progressing through this pretty quickly, we did have the capability to pause if any of the 4 crew members needed to, you know, take a moment to, you know, let their ears come to equilibrium or just kind of get comfortable again. We did have that option, but everything has been going really well so far. We haven't had to pause cabin venting.
A good question from our viewer. I don't know the answer. One of our viewers says, in an emergency, how quickly can the cabin be repressurized? That I don't know.
28 minutes into the spacewalk today, which again, that started when we started flowing O2 to the suits of these crew members. That was at 3:12 Pacific, 10:12 UTC. We just heard that Dragon's now in its EVA attitude.
Handover complete.
Mort says this is crazy seeing
Again,
live.
we've got Dragon's trunk pointing towards the sun.
We are with you on board, watching through the cross view.
That was SpaceX Core Arthur Berrialt, just letting the crew know that where the cameras are on inside and basically which camera is looking at them.
It's so fun to hear Arthur's voice because he was actually a part of our mission as well. In fact, Arthur was an intern, started out as an intern when we were first starting the training, and so now to see him as a core and is pretty neat.
Very similar to Sarah, who also started as an intern.
Yes, yeah.
Right, we're coming up on 1 psi. You saw the light change a little bit through that window as we're in our EVA position, trunk facing the sun. That's going to help us with thermal inside the capsule and on the crew suits. Also going to make sure we're maintaining that optimal pointing for communications with the TDRS satellites. Once the hatch is open, we're going to disable any of the Draco thrusters that point forward, because you don't want thrusters firing off when a crew member's outside.
1 PSI. Hatch opening soon, I believe.
We're at 1. You can see the suit pressure is ticked down too. There's about 4.7 difference between the suit and the ambient cabin there in Dragon.
That umbilical that you see there just to the side of Jared, that will continue to flow the air into his suit as well as provide telemetry and communications connection. That's also where we have the safety harness built in as well, so it's able to...
Dragon SpaceX, cabin pressure below hatch operating limit. Stand by for transition to hatch open prep.
Hatch open prep coming up.
Mike, did you get to open the hatch?
I did. Yes. Yeah. When you go out as
EVA hatch open prep.
Hatch open prep.
Dragon SpaceX, for an EVA hatch open prep. Confirm crew ready to open hatch.
Ready to open hatch?
That is great news.
Hatch opening. EV1's good.
EV2's good.
EV1 good. EV2 good.
All right, guys.
SpaceX, EV1, we're ready to open the hatch.
SpaceX copies. Dragon, you are go to open hatch.
Go to open hatch.
exciting.
Copy that, SpaceX. Go to open the hatch.
Wow. Here we go.
Mike,
He's
as you
opening the
mentioned
hatch.
before, that continuous communication.
The hatch handle.
Wow.
As you can hear, we do have a crowd gathering outside of Mission Control here in Hawthorne. In their excitement, somebody dropped a cup.
He's unscrewing the thing. Oh my gosh.
We can see our commander, Jared Isaacman, now turning the crank, which allows the that top hatch to open. We'll see him give it a pretty heavy...
EV1, hatch is visually indicating open.
SpaceX copies. Stand by.
He's opening the hatch.
Should see him give that hatch a pretty strong
Pressure in
jolt
cabin
to
zero.
release that stiction.
Pressure in cabin 0. Vacuum of space in the cabin,
Hatch
basically.
is now unlatched.
As Mike talked about, we see him getting his feet set.
That's right. Dan, you'd asked if I'd gotten open the hatch. So when you go out as EV1, just like Jared here as EV1, that's typically the role for you is to open that hatch. And
You guys
so,
have to draw straws, fight over who gets. It's exciting.
It is. It's very exciting. Yeah.
Ooh.
Now, for those of you that have just recently joined, as you can see, we have successfully depressurized the Dragon capsule down to 0 PSIA. You see that in the bottom left-hand side, bottom left corner of your screen. Our 4 Polaris Dawn crew members have gone through the O2 flow, and we see Commander Jared Isaacman now standing by to open that top hatch. The nose cone is already open. It opened just shortly after the crew got into orbit. So,
Dragon SpaceX target pressure reached.
Copy that, SpaceX. I'm unseating the hatch now.
All right, is he
Jared
opening
now
it now?
opening Dragon.
There it is.
Visualize
It's moving. It's moving.
into space.
The hatch is moving.
We saw some motion on the hatch. Again, he's just giving it kind of that initial tug. And then Sarah gets to push the button to swing that hatch open.
It's moving. It's moving.
Much more movement there.
It's
on
moving.
The forward hatch.
We're
Must
so
be
close
pretty
to
exciting
the hatch
for
opening.
Jared because that center part of
Dragon SpaceX, that's a good brace. We're going to have you repeat the operation.
Oh my gosh.
center
Look at all
of the
that
hatch
movement.
actually has a window.
SpaceX, the hatch is unseated.
Copy.
Let's give it another pull.
Give it a pull.
The hatch
It's-
is several inches inside its OCD light.
Copy. We see it.
It's so close to being open.
Looking out that tiny window there in the forward hatch, knowing he is going to have a much bigger window in just minutes.
I hope they don't lose it, says one of our viewers. I'm sure they have some sort of provision for keeping it secure.
Dragon SpaceX.
There it is.
Complete.
Oh. Almost.
EV1 return to seat.
And EV1 copy, transitioning back under the display.
What's happening?
So again,
they're having
one of the
him-
reasons we had Jared do that was to
Dragon SpaceX, we're actually watching that hatch. We're going to have you repeat the last operation.
sounds like they're going to have him repeat them. One of the reasons we're doing that is just to kind of vent any of that residual
Transition
atmosphere.
back, come up from under the display.
And EV1, you are go for manual hatch open.
Go for manual hatch open.
Sounds like we got our first audible of the day. As we said, that we can open the hatch.
Opening the hatch manually.
We could open the hatch. We could open the hatch automatically, or we can do it manually. And so they just gave Jared the go to open that hatch manually. So
You're gonna do it by
we
hand.
just went out of ground station reach, so we'll get the views back.
Wow.
We'll get the
They
views
don't-
back real shortly, and then the
And
hatch will
hopefully
get
we'll see
open.
a hatch open.
And hopefully we see it. Yeah, hopefully we see a hatch
So
open.
they periodically lose the feed every once in a while.
SpaceX copies, hatch open.
Oh, they didn't have the feed for the hatch open. Ah,
That is fantastic
Ah!
news for those that.
SpaceX EV1, I'm looking at the seals. Initial view looks pretty good.
We'll get the video back, but they didn't have the view for the hatch open. They should have waited. Why didn't they wait? They should have had him hold on. They should have said wait 2 minutes.
Yeah, that seal that you just heard him talking about, it's such an important part for the end of the EVA, right? So that when they close that hatch again, you get a good... Get a good seal of the hatch.
So the hatch is open, guys. We'll see it in a second. We'll see it in a second.
EV2 SpaceX.
Oh, there it is. It's open. Yay!
This is going to stall it open.
There it is. It's open.
There is our first view of the forward hatch, wide open to space.
Forward hatch. Execute.
The hatch is open.
If you just jumped in, we are 38 minutes into today's spacewalk, and the hatch is open on Dragon. First view
There's
from a
like-
helmet cam.
Helmet cam
Looking
view.
out.
Dragon SpaceX, we see it stalled. EV1 is go to continue.
Okay.
That structure you see there is
Check for egress. EV1.
EV. All right, Jeff.
I'm transitioning back from under the displays.
SpaceX
He's going out right now.
Helmet.
Helmet cam. Watch. He's gonna go out. We're gonna see the helmet
once
cam.
again, this
Crazy.
helmet cam. That structure we see is the spacewalker.
He's
This is
going
Jared
out.
now, egressing through the forward
Wow.
hatch of Dragon Resilience.
It's like a video game, but it's real. Someone's going to make a game out of this.
These are the
That's what
first
he's seeing.
views of the first ever commercial spacewalk.
I'm at the bottom of the mobility aid. Progressing.
This is crazy.
I have a feeling the crowd is about to go wild.
Whoa!
Good call.
Look at this.
Approaching the top of the mobility aid.
Wow! Pretty crazy. Look at that.
SpaceX. Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world. All right, SpaceX. EV1, I'm going to step into test matrix 1. Single
Whoa!
mobility demonstration.
Look at this.
Commander
Look at
Jared
this.
Isaacman now emerging
Copy, we're with you in
from...
test matrix 1, watching from the nose cone.
First private spacewalk ever. Crazy video.
Up, down, left, and right are 3s.
Amazing video.
Pitch and roll are 3. Yaw is a 2. Switching. Single-handed operations are fine. Static and with dynamic disturbance. Switching to left hand.
He's doing a mobility test for the suit. He will always have a hand or foot on the ship or a railing. He's not going to dangle
Up, down,
off.
left, and right are 3s, maybe a 2. Pitch is a 4. Roll is a 2. Yaw is a 2.
So these are the suit mobility checks that Jared is
Single-handed
performing.
operations, dynamic and with disturbance, are all adequate. Test matrix 1 complete. HUD check, 5.3 psi, 48% RH, 33.9 Celsius.
He is
SpaceX
tethered,
copies.
but he's
Test
not going to
matrix
hang
1
by his
and
tether.
HUD readout.
Crew ops check, EV1's good.
EV2's good.
Port 1 good.
Port 2 good.
Okay, stepping into vertical translation. We're going to start with the horizontal bars.
All right, he's getting out further. He's getting out further. I thought he was.
All right, we're going to transition over to vertical.
This is the first ever private spacewalk.
I'd say vertical and horizontal are equally workable, slightly favors horizontal.
He is testing the
I'm going
spacesuit,
to do a max reach.
doing mobility
Left hand's
tests.
at the top of the mobility aid.
Pretty crazy.
At the midpoint. Good video.
Oh, stand by for Dragon cameras.
We just
We
lost
lose
our
the
live
cameras
video,
once
but
again.
stand by 1.
Okay, switching over to max reach, switching to. Copy that, SpaceX. I'm holding up at the max reach.
And EV1, go ahead and continue the operation. We'll let you know we're back on with live video.
Copy that. And for your awareness, max reach, left aid, and the mid bar. And that's test matrix 2 is complete. HUD readout, 5.3 psi, 33.9 Celsius, 50% RH.
They'll get the video back in a second. There
Copy,
it is.
test
See?
matrix complete. And
Dark side
HUD
of
readout.
the Earth. The sun is pointing at the opposite end of the spacecraft.
We're good.
Port 2 good.
Stepping into test matrix 3,
And
hands-free demonstration.
EV1 SpaceX for ingress time.
Go, SpaceX.
Recommended ingress time of O2 flow plus 47 minutes.
Copy that. Ingress time, 47 minutes.
And Dragon, we're back on live video from the nose cone.
Copy that.
There will
SpaceX.
be one more crew member after him will do the same thing. Look at this. He is holding on, but he's almost out of there. GM says he wants to walk.
TV1. I would say the hands-free demonstration is very comparable to the trainer in terms of the foot restraints.
SpaceX copies. And EV1, when you have time, if you'd like to return to the reach demonstration, we'll take a look at that with the live video.
Copy that. Test matrix 3 is complete. The HUD readout is 5.3 psi, 47% RH, 33.8 Celsius, and stepping back into max reach.
Copy test
And
matrix
as you
3.
can see, top of the mobility aid. And let's get a quick crew off check. EV1's good.
EV2's good.
I'm good.
R2's good.
Copy that. Okay, max reach, whether it's left or right hand, seems to be about the same. Top of the mobility aid, and then the mid-road.
Copy, we see it.
Checking up from the bottom.
So the person you're looking at is Jared Isaacman. He is a billionaire entrepreneur, and he is sharing the cost of this with SpaceX. It is not. We don't know how much he spent. Reuters estimated that the cost of this operation of this mission is hundreds of millions of dollars. But that is billionaire entrepreneur Jared Isaacman is the person you see right there. He is the first private spacewalker. Oh, helmet cam. Helmet cam.
EV1, we're checking out your helmet cam now.
Well, I'm checking out your nose cone right now. And looks pretty good.
He's looking at the nose cone.
Copy, we'll return to nose cone. See you looking at us.
All right, we're coming up about that O2 flow timer time. Crew check for ingress. EV1's good.
EV2's good.
All right, he's going back in a second. He's going back in.
All right. SpaceX EV1. Congrats for the huge team effort that it took to get us to this point. We know it's just the start. And I'm transitioning back into the vehicle.
So he's going back in, and one of the other crew members will go out for about 12 minutes. Wow. EV1 ingress. So he's heading back in. Look at this. All right, so he's coming back. And then the other one will take out. Go
SpaceX
out.
EV1. We're taking a quick look here at the hatch seals. From what I can see so far, they look pretty good.
Copy on the hatch seals and stand by for transition to 3-off reset.
Copy that, SpaceX. Good. And EV1 is clear.
SpaceX engineer Sarah Gillis will be the other person going outside of the craft. So
right,
she is up
Jared's
next.
back inside. We heard him going through what's called the test matrix. It's basically just a bunch of maneuvers using different hands, using the foot mobility.
3-off reset is in progress.
Calling out numbers. Right now, though, we're doing So you just heard
Dragon copy.
Arthur call up 3 DOF reset. So we didn't use any of the forward thrusters while Jared was out there. We're re-enabling them, putting us back in our perfect attitude before Sarah gets ready to go out the door. Fun thing to note, it's still not a perfect vacuum inside a Dragon. It's an open loop system, so oxygen is kind of getting dumped into the cabin as this is going on. So you got a higher pressure in Dragon than you have outside. So we're not worried about thruster pluming.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Sarah, just like Jared, she will have 10 to 15 minutes outside, perform those same sets of mobility tests as Jared. Like we heard the Corps do with EV1, they will call out when there's 1 minute remaining.
SpaceX, attitude reset complete. EV2, go for egress.
There's Sarah's clear.
All right, she's going now.
Crew check for EV2 egress.
EV1's good.
EV2's good.
All good.
What 2 good?
Maybe we'll see her helmet cam.
Stand in the door and then step outside.
All right.
Now this test matrix that Jared just performed and the one that Sarah's about to perform, they have both committed to memory in order to execute these. We saw it being done pretty efficiently. I can't believe how quickly that time went by. Mike, we were talking about how your spacewalks were hours and these guys only have 10 to 15 minutes and it just like that.
Yeah, it can go pretty quick, and but fortunately,
Fields looks good. I see a little bit of a bulge between 14 and 13.
so you're hearing Sarah call out some more of the seal check there as she's exiting out.
It's reseated.
SpaceX copies that report. Good fix.
So this was something we knew might happen. And
It's
Sarah,
between 28 and 27.
Copy.
the crew trained on exactly what to do in this scenario. Just pop it back in.
And
Reseat
one
it.
final between 19 and 18.
I wonder if this cuts in on her walk
That might
time.
be best reseated with hatch closure
SpaceX copies. Can you repeat the location?
after EVA complete.
Yes, she is an
Between
engineer
19
with
and
SpaceX.
18.
All right, copy. I'll track that and ask again when you're ingress.
Copy. EV2 is proceeding with egress.
She is going out right
Super
now.
exciting to see this. Our fellow SpaceXer,
Yeah.
Sarah Gillis, now about to make her spacewalk.
EV1, I'm going to hand this back to you.
Like we mentioned, Sarah will be performing the same set of mobility tests. So we will do the same. Try to stand by and listen to those comms.
Here she goes. Nice shot.
I mean, I said it before, a lot of us work here because we want to do this.
All right, stepping into test matrix 1 for
Wow.
single-handed mobility.
Really cool to see one of our own out there. That's awesome.
And EV2 for awareness. We're watching from the nose cone.
So she is doing mobility tests on her suit. Everything good so far. Everything good so far. Must be pretty crazy. I can't imagine what that's like when you're actually sitting there looking around like that.
I would say in all three translation axes, I'm having certainly cross-coupled movements forward, back. I am inducing a bit of a roll. Similarly with left, right, and up, down, a bit of a pitch, but all are achievable. Rating of 3. Yaw is a 3. Roll is a 4. And pitch is a 3.
So I'm guessing her view is different than what we're seeing. You know, one of the viewers said something like the cameras are focusing on her, and so again, I don't think she's looking around and seeing just black everywhere. But I don't have a good technological explanation for why. You know, we saw the Earth before, the part that was lit up. But I'm guessing she can see a lot more than just black.
EV2 for awareness. We're tracking an ingress time at O2 flow, 5-9 minutes.
Copy, 5-9 minutes.
Excessive force says definitely can.
Are definitely preferred.
Virtual says eyes work different than camera lenses. Go Niners says exposure doesn't let us see the stars.
And I'm adequately able to stabilize my body with single-hand disturbances.
Surly Dev says the brightness of her suit will cause the camera to alter the settings, which means the stars become invisible to the camera.
Stepping into max reach, do you have visual?
Affirm, we have visual on the nose cone.
Although I'd like to see the helmet cam from this perspective.
R2, from top down.
I hope they show us the helmet cam, or maybe after they'll show us that.
Similar reach from bar 2 up to bar 4.
SpaceX copies reach.
And EVA test matrix 1 complete. Sea pressure 5.25, 33.8 Celsius, 37% humidity.
SpaceX copies HUD readout and test matrix 1 complete.
The witness says, I'm sure it's all being recorded. Maybe later we'll get more footage.
The test matrix 2.
Like we mentioned before, views going in and out due to those ground station coverage gaps.
Yeah, we comms are
some of the same.
Comms are through satellites, but we've got ground stations for video on Dragon. As you can see in the tracker, we just flew over on New Zealand. We're about to go right over the middle of the Pacific. No ground stations in the middle of the Pacific.
Are actually pretty good.
So in New Zealand, it's 11:11 p.m. right now, okay? In New Zealand, where they're over, it's 11:11 p.m.
We're hearing the voice of mission specialist Sarah Gillis, our fellow SpaceXer on her spacewalk.
If you missed it, it's really worth rewinding. When the first of the two astronauts went out, you could actually see the Earth when he went out. It was pretty crazy.
SpaceX copies.
And you could see the Earth dark, and we flew into like an orbital.
All right, and test matrix 2, trying to combine them, so we'll call that complete. Sea pressure 5.27, 38% humidity, 33.7 Celsius.
SpaceX copies matrix complete and HUD readout.
Stepping into hands-free demo. I'm able to engage and disengage my feet.
Copy that, EV2. And once you are able to engage, disengage, we'll actually have you start ingress. We're just over 5-9 minutes O2 flow.
Okay, she's going to come back in soon.
Copy. With that, EV2 is proceeding with ingress. Pre-check for ingress.
All right, she's going back in.
EV2 is good.
Good. 14 good.
Copy. Coming on in.
She's going back in. You know, they were busy when they were out. It's too bad. I was kind of hoping to hear them say, like, oh my gosh, look at this. This is amazing. EV2 ingress. Hey, thank you, Johnny McGrath. Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate that. Johnny McGrath, thank you for your support.
SpaceX copies on striker plates. And EV2, I have one more ask for the hatch, if you can check that out as well when ready to copy.
Ready?
And
copy.
Copy. And EV2, what I'll have you do is, when you ingress, can you get eyes on the hatch handle mechanism and see if the handle has been stowed in the do not stow window, and report if you can see that?
Check it. I think it's just outside.
Copy, just outside. Thank you.
Just outside the range. And for awareness, I do see a couple of those same points bulging again between 12 and 13.
Copy, your go to address.
No, mostly between 12 and 13 right now.
SpaceX copies at 12. If you can, your go to address those.
Copy and work.
These numbers being called out represent the location around. Yeah, the location around the circular hatch, just identifying where these bulges are. So Sarah's now reseating that seal.
Not quite able to reach the back one, so we'll proceed with clearing for hatch closure.
Clear. They're going to close the hatch. They're about to close the hatch.
Just like that, we're already hearing about hatch closure. It's incredible that these two EVAs, just in 2 blinks of the eyes, are...
ED2 is clear of hatch, please.
2 checks.
I guess they made some adjustments
On
to
your
the
screen
hatch
there
seal,
is
which was
SpaceX
supposedly
Core,
normal.
Or Crew Operations and Resource Engineer. On duty tonight is Arthur Barrialt. This is the voice to the crew throughout their operations. Of course, you know, everyone has to sleep, so we have different shifts for Core. But Mike, your time in Dragon.
Driving close. You're good?
Copy. Deploying handle. Applying force. And closing.
Once we get ground station coverage, again, we will be sure to bring you views within the Dragon capsule. But right now, Sarah is closing the forward hatch.
It sounds like we might give the motor a try.
You confirm the hatch is visually indicating closed?
And hatch is verified latched.
Hey, commanding EVA hatch closed.
Hatch is latched. The hatch is closed. The hatch is closed.
All Dracos enabled.
They just have to repressurize the cabin.
Dragon
But the
SpaceX,
hatch
we
is
see
closed.
EVA hatch closed, and pressure indicates good hatch seal. Stand by for transition to EVA.
Good hatch
repress 1.
seal. You can see on the lower left. Oh, that number's going to start going up, but they're going to repressurize the cabin.
O2 valve closed.
See the number going up on the lower left? It's going to go back up because they're pumping air into the cabin now.
EV1 closed.
EV2 closed.
O1 closed.
O2 closed.
So a couple of real big moments right there. Sarah was able to make sure.
SpaceX, we
We're in
copy.
EVA repress 1.
We copy. Secondary flow is closed and agree. EVA repress 1.
She was able to make sure that the seals were in good spot. We got the hatch closed. You
Okay,
can
crew,
see
we're out of a half PSI for 8.3.
the pressure starting to tick up.
But remember, even the astronauts on the inside who didn't go out, they were exposed to the vacuum of space. The hatch was open. If you missed it, rewind. You can see the astronauts going outside, the two astronauts going outside the spacecraft, especially the first one, when the first astronaut went outside, Jared Isaacman. When he went out, you could really see the Earth. It was pretty striking. So,
So
the
each of
first
the crew
private
just closed
spacewalk
those
ever.
secondary O2 valves on their umbilicals. Again, that was primarily for cooling. During the spacewalk itself, suit's still pressurized by that primary. And now we're going to start to see the pressure tick up inside of Dragon. Right after they get the hatch closed, they're able to do kind of an initial pressure check. Because again, oxygen, it's an open loop system with these suits still flowing into the cabin. You're able to see positive pressure response showing that the cabin, the hatch was closed.
So
and
they're
was
not,
sealed.
it sounds like they're
We'll
not
still do a
even
leak
pumping
check
air into the
on our
cabin
way kind
yet.
of back up to our nominal cabin pressure. So we're going to continue ticking up until we're about 8.3 psi, and then we're going to transition into the second phase of our repress. Really, the difference between repress 1, repress 2 is how frequently we're injecting atmosphere.
Oh no, they are ejecting.
Kind of the repress is also pretty unique with Dragon.
They are
repressurizing
actively
with just nitrogen,
pressurizing the cabin right now.
which is a little bit unique. Obviously,
Sorry.
you have nitrogen and oxygen in your atmosphere. With this, we have O2 flowing into the cabin through the suits, so we only need to add nitrogen. So we're able to just basically add a bunch of that to really start getting your pressure up. O2 continues to flow into the cabin through the suits, and we're going to continue pressurizing until we're pretty much right back at our 14.
Fan 1 coming on, medium speed.
Right at about our 14 or so PSI. And we're also looking at what the partial pressure of oxygen is, because we want to make sure the crew takes helmets off and everything, that plenty of oxygen in the cabin. And then we're going to change that injection rate to just help with the mixing. Is microgravity, everything's harder, everything's on hard mode, and you don't just have natural convection. So space station, I think I've heard it a bunch of times, Mike, like you just constant noise of fans.
That's right.
Almost.
Yeah, there's you've got to continually recycle that air, and one, to help get rid of the CO2, right? Because
the video
as they're
should
taking
come
in that
back
oxygen,
soon.
they're breathing out the CO2, and we need to get that out of the system, which is another important reason to have that air constantly circulating.
Yeah. Man, that felt really quick.
It did.
That was really cool to see them outside for the first time. And what they were actually doing out there is a bunch of pretty simple tests as it looked, but like this is just learning how the heck do you move, because like just moving around in microgravity is tough, right?
It is tough.
Dragon SpaceX, we're about 2.5 minutes from Tedra's handover.
It would have been nice to see the view from the helmet cam and see the
Yeah,
stars.
that
I don't know if
movement
that's
is tough,
possible,
and
but
there is a big difference.
it would have
just of
definitely been
moving
good to
around
see.
when
I
you're in
mean,
your short sleeves like
it's great
we're
that they were
in
able to do it,
inside
but it
the
would have been great
capsule,
to be able to see more
and
of
when
the
you
Earth
put
and
on
more
that
of the stars and all
spacesuit,
that.
it's much more
Maybe we'll get
challenging
footage
to
later.
move around with that on.
Yeah, and what they were really doing was just kind of like you put your hand on Skywalker, and then you're changing your pitch, you're doing translation up and down and everything. And then the one that I think is kind of cool is max reach, because like just going like that is, not easy.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things I thought was interesting is you heard, I think it was Sarah, talk about the horizontal rail versus the vertical and how much easier that was for her to grab onto or utilize versus the vertical one. So simple things like that, for us,
when do
not a
they
big
land?
deal,
I believe it's a
but out there
5-day
in
mission,
that,
and this is day
in the vacuum
3.
and in the microgravity
So if
environment, it does become a much bigger deal.
And you and
reading is
Dan
correct.
and
I
we've
believe
never been
they
in
have 2
space,
more
so we
days.
certainly appreciate all of your expertise that you'd be able to share
Thank
with
you.
us throughout this morning's operations and contributing your 2 cents.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was great to be here. Just an incredible moment, not only for the Polaris Dawn, for all of SpaceX, and really for humanity, because it's just one of those small steps that's taken us that much closer to being that interplanetary species. So thank you very much for having me around.
Our pleasure. You're welcome back anytime.
Excellent. All right.
Good to
Thanks,
see you,
guys.
Hopper.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, so repress is continuing. We're a little over 4 PSI right now. Again, we're going to keep that going up until we're a little over 8, and then we're going to change our repress rate. We're basically just going to be injecting nitrogen for shorter periods of time. That's just going to help that atmosphere mix as we get the crew kind of back up to basically their normal cabin atmosphere that they haven't actually been at for the last couple of days, because we started this whole process like right after we got on orbit.
Yeah, it was almost like we launched them and gave them 2 seconds to acclimate.
We're going to read some more of your comments, guys,
Q0G indicator and immediately
as this thing comes to a close. But we're going to be reading some more of your comments on the air and talking about it.
And really, like you said, let them acclimate and
Kate
let their bodies
Kate
adjust.
Hike says it wasn't so much
the
of a
success of
walk
that really
as it was
demonstrated today by the fact that we were able to step through
as hang out the
all
sunroof.
of the steps today without having to take the optional and available breaks to allow the crew members to adjust during. Oh, sorry. I thought we were going to get something there.
Yeah, we're
box
getting
coming in.
the TDRS in and out, so like we'll get it back. But.
So yeah, just the fact that the all 4 crew members were able to just go right along and didn't have to pause as the option was available. I think it's a testament to the preparation that they did before and during.
Garage check, ED1 good.
ED2 good.
4 good. Part 2 good.
Just heard a quick check-in from them, so we're going to keep counting the PSI up until we get to about 8. We are going to do another leak check on the way up to our nominal cabin pressure. As you introduce atmosphere, you're introducing temperature changes, not just pressure changes, and so we'll get to a nice, pretty stable point when we're at 8, and then we'll let it hang out there for a couple of minutes. Let the thermals kind of cancel out. That'll take about 5 minutes to do that. This obviously has to be done to make sure we've got a really tight seal with that hatch, as before we let crew get out of their seats, move about the cabin, anything like that. I want to make sure Dragon is fully recovered. We just use Dragon as an airlock.
Yeah, and actually the info that you were talking about, you see it there on your screen live with that telemetry there in the bottom left and bottom right hand corners. We can see the Dragon capsule and the suit pressures continuing to rise.
Eliza Jane says, I will feel relief when the pressure gets back to normal in the craft and no leaks.
1 hour and 13 minutes. It flew by so quick.
Brendan Black, our viewer, thinks this is bigger than most realize, another step to Mars.
I'm sure for Jared and Sarah, it flew by even quicker.
Yeah. We just heard Jared call down. We're coming up on 1 PSI for PPO2. So what we're really tracking before we give the crew the go to get out of their suits is both the actual, like just the straight up, what the absolute pressure is inside, but also what the partial pressure of oxygen is. We want to make sure you don't have a hypoxic environment inside. Basically, you want to get them they're going to be pretty much right back at the atmosphere that we're walking around in right now before they get their suits off. Our EVA clock's going to continue to count until we hear the call for EVA operations complete from our core Arthur Burial. That's going to come once we are done with the repress operation. We'll see a couple of other things happen with the suits. They'll do kind of a final washout of the pure O2 environment in the suit using nitrox before they get out.
Nitrox being that same air mixture that you have in your scuba tank. If you've got any scuba divers out there, that nitrogen-oxygen mixture.
Eric Johnson says SpaceX is eclipsing Boeing. Cisco says should get video back soon, approaching the West Coast.
Should hopefully be getting video back from ground stations.
SpaceX.
Video back shortly, guys.
Stand by for transition to repress 2 at 8.3.
Okay, copy that, SpaceX. We're following along. Repress 2 at 8.3.
Less Than says we have watched an entire orbit.
Yeah, so once we transition to repress 2, once we're at about 8.3 psi, we'll stay there for about 2 minutes. And then once the cabin gets up to 9, we're going to pause the repress and we're going to do a cabin leak check. This is another kind of critical check. We did the initial one after they closed the hatch, where you're able to do just kind of a, let's look at the pressure. Is it increasing at the rate we expect inside Dragon? Yes, it is. And so we were able to confirm that seals and everything looked good. We're going to do another leak check now that we've got more pressure inside Dragon, just to really make sure that we've got a good seal on that hatch before we finish the operation.
Hey, let me say thanks to some people on Twitch. Thanks for your support to Tech Slug. Thanks, Tech Slug, very much. And for the gift memberships and the bits. And thanks to Pro Clicker as well. Shout out to all of our moderators who are here too. Let me shout out our moderators.
There was the option to pause.
Repress 2. Crew ops check, 81 good. 81 good.
And yeah, that comms that we're hearing.
About a half PSI before we get to the leak check.
No, she is not the first woman ever to spacewalk, because I can see an article on space.com from November 2023 that talks about the 4th ever all-female spacewalk. So other females have done spacewalks before.
There would be an option in this repress sequence to pause.
On December 2023, December of 2023 was the first all-woman spacewalk.
Again, just like the way that we depressurize, now this repress, it seems to be going really smoothly.
Yeah, we're just about at 9. I'm going to say we're almost there, and then it's going to tick up. But we're going to pause at 9. We're going to do another cabin leak check.
Ruth Grafasi, thank you, Ruth, for moderating over there on YouTube. I really appreciate it. On Twitch, Big Ball of Yarn, LB Prairie Dawn, and Surly Dev. Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley on Facebook, thank you.
Waiting 5 minutes for thermal stabilization.
Linda Belk and Larry over on X. Thanks to all of our moderators.
And for your awareness, we do a positive refresh rate. We are 30 seconds into the leak check.
They're doing the leak check, they said, I think.
Like we mentioned earlier, right now this repress is being done with nitrogen. Once we get
your awareness, TPO2 is 1.35, halfway there.
They're still flowing that oxygen, and in a few minutes we will begin to flow. We'll do a flush of nitrox into the suits. All right, we got our views back.
There they are.
Hey, look, there they are. The hatch is back
sad
on.
To see that forward hatch closed again.
It's got to be really hard when they tell you It's time to go back in.
Yeah.
Just one more minute.
Yep. It reminds me of when I was a kid swimming in the pool. You know, time to get out. Just one more minute.
I mean, it speaks to the professionalism for Jared, for Sarah, for the whole crew, really. Like that's got to be this is something they've been training for
look at that.
years.
That's kind of a cool view.
And it's got to be really hard not to go for those, that extra 30 seconds. But they're true professionals.
Yep. They know there's a timeline.
2 minutes into the 8-minute leak check. Cross check. One good. One good. What you good?
Hey, thanks to Back Garden Astronomy, who says everyone should buy a telescope. Space is amazing. Thank you, Back Garden Astronomy. I appreciate that. Hey, they're almost over the West Coast.
We're a couple minutes into our leak check. You're seeing the pressure continue to tick up. We've stopped the nitrogen injections, but again, oxygen coming out of essentially a vent line on those suits. And that is why you're going to continue to see the pressure tick up. You heard Jared call out the PPO2. That's going up. That's your partial pressure of oxygen. We're looking for that to get to over about 2.6, a little bit higher.
Yeah, so...
and then our final actual, just ambient pressure inside Dragon is going to be right around 14.4 or so. And, I mean, that's a little bit lower than what we're walking around in now. But, if you're at a little higher altitude state in the country or something, that's what you might be sitting in right now in your house. And they haven't been at that pressure since they left her.
Yeah.
Somebody asked when it's coming back. So it is a 5-day mission, up to 5 days in orbit. I don't know that I don't have a scheduled time that I've seen yet for the splashdown, but they're spending up to 5 days in orbit, and this is the 3rd day.
Arthur, of EVA operations complete, and that's when our clock's going to stop. Our spacewalk did start today at 3:12 a.m. Pacific, 10:12 UTC. It's continuing to tick up. Ours was unique. We talked about it a little bit with Mike. There's different rules for every single spacewalk. It's fun, a little challenging sometimes to track all of them. Even on the space station,
we're halfway through the leak check. Still positive research.
We're about halfway through the leak check.
So SpaceX said that one important part of this mission for them was to test these spacesuits that they've been working on. And on their website, they say building a base on the moon and a city on Mars will require thousands of spacesuits. The development of this suit and the execution of the EVA, extravehicular activity, I believe it is, will be important steps toward a scalable design for these spacesuits on future long-duration missions. Hey, Patrol. That is very, very generous of you, Patrol. Wow, that's really nice of you. Thanks so much for your support of the channel, Patrol. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Patrol.
The leak check for the capsule takes a little longer than the individual suit leak checks. But so far, so good. A little bit more than halfway through.
Yeah, bigger volume.
Check evaluation period start 3 minutes.
All right, so we hit.
Copy that, SpaceX. We're tracking.
Hit essentially a thermal stabilization. So again, this is the fun. I think it's chemistry. I'm not sure, but as you're raising the pressure, you're changing the thermal environment inside the cabin, so temperature goes up. Your temperature goes up, your pressure can go up. So you wait for all of that to kind of equalize, and once that gets at a steady state, you can do a real no-kidding pressure check on this hatch. And so we're underway with that. That's going to take a couple of minutes, and then we'll hear the results, and then look to resume with the repress. It'll slow down a little bit for the remaining of the repress. Kind of going in reverse. When we did the depress, a lot of that atmosphere was flowing over, and once we got down low, it started to slow.
Really enjoying these in-cabin views. Everyone.
Dragon SpaceX for awareness. This leak check is looking good so far, but we're still going to wait the full 8 minutes.
Guys, if you didn't see it, it's really worth going back and watching the first crew member, Jared Isaacman. When he comes out of the hatch, you can see a lot of the Earth really clearly in the background, and it's a really stunning visual. And actually, we saw his helmet cam as well. You can actually, if you want, you can rewind this broadcast, or you can, afterwards find it online or, wherever and watch it. But if you didn't see it, make sure you watch when the first astronaut, Jared Isaacman, went up. There was a helmet cam view where you could see the Earth. You could actually see through his helmet as he went through the hatch. And then there was a more distant view from the ship where you could see him pop out. And it's really worth checking out if you haven't seen it.
For Jared, report down that partial pressure of oxygen right at about 2. Once that gets to about 2.6, we can essentially stop flow of that pure oxygen to the crew suits. Is like 2.6 is right where we want to keep it when we're at our final pressure.
Dragon SpaceX, successful leak check. Stand by to restart or repress.
Axeman says it was worth watching Earth backdrop.
Copy Dragon SpaceX, we're following.
Great news there. Successful leak check of the cabin.
Repress 2. All right, crew, we're in EVA repress 2. As a reminder, EVA repress 2 will complete when either PPO2 reaches 2.62 or cabin reaches 1 atmosphere. Right now we're coming up on 10 psi for cabin pressure, and PPO2 is 2.2.
So they periodically lose video. So we don't have video right now. I assume they'll get it back.
That partial pressure of oxygen continue to tick up. Once that gets to about 2.62, we're going to be done flowing that pure oxygen to the suits of the crew. And then eventually we're going to get to 1 atmosphere. It's about 14.4 is our target for today. And then our repress will be complete. So this will go a little bit slower than the initial repress. This could take up to about 20 or 30 minutes, even in some of the times that we simmed it. You don't want to introduce them super quickly to a higher pressure. Anytime you're doing pressure changes, as gradual as you can make it, the better. And that's why we have like the built-in holds that we talked about that the crew can do.
Exactly. These are opportunities for the crew to pause the repress and just allow themselves to come to equilibrium.
Words are hard.
Hey, I want to take some more comments from you guys. So this is going on. We'll check back in. I want to hear from you. What did you guys think about all of this? Merck says the altitude now is about 300 kilometers lower than the EVA altitude. So I believe they're still going, during their orbit, I believe they're still going up and down. So that might just, I assume they'll go back up later in the orbit, I think. I don't know. I have to read about it, but I think that's what's going on. Thank you for messaging Merck. One of the articles I read talked about the orbit, but I don't have it handy here. Yeah, but I believe it's one of the viewers will know about it. The orbit is not circular, says Bob the Bomb.
Cabin PPO2, that partial pressure for O2 reaches about 2.6. So we are continuing to progress pretty well.
Cabin 10.55.
John 1948 says they've just passed their lowest altitude perigee and are now rising again.
Just so that we're allowing the crew to acclimate along with the capsule.
really cool day so far. It was awesome to see them, out
Tracy
there.
says, wish they were actually walking. Yeah, they didn't actually walk,
we only got to talk about it a little bit, but just some of the different
the
tests
first
that they were
private
doing while they're out there.
spacewalk.
This is like fundamental. How do you do a spacewalk? Well, first of all, you use your hands a lot. And how are you going to be able to move around? This is the first time we've ever had the suit in that environment crew. And so they had basically a checklist of like, these are the things you're going to do. It was, use one hand and wave the other one around and see how well you can stabilize yourself. And
then rate that activity on a scale of 1 to 5 and report it back to
Our viewer Ellie says, disappointed about losing video feeds at crucial moments, otherwise pretty awesome. LB Prairie Dawn says, I thought it was breathtaking, very cool to see live. Blissy thought it was incredible.
At the very end, you saw Jared go hands-free for a second, and that was we had a foot restraint.
I don't. Michael Klassen says, how long is the time gap between Earth and the capsule when communicating? It doesn't feel that long. I didn't really even notice it when they were talking to each other.
You go to swing the hammer, and like it swings back at you, so you need something to kind of brace yourself, and a foot restraint can be really important.
Yeah.
Sumi Sue says, how much money did the billionaire pay for this? Imagine how many starving people he could have fed with it. Now, I'm assuming that, like, he in space... First of all, now, let me just say this. First of all, I know part of this whole mission is supporting a charity. I believe it's a hospital of some sort. We talked about that earlier. And also, I'm assuming that what he and the company might say is that, well, there's bigger benefits to Earth in the future from all of this. I'm not telling you what to think about this. I'm just saying, just to say what a response to that might be. But I'm not going to tell you what to think, and I don't have all the details. So, channel re-upload says St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
Clock started. We're on nitrox pursuit. Cabin TPO2 is 2.16.
Wall Street says eventually we'll have to get off Earth.
11.11.32.
MD, they will be in orbit up to 2 more days.
The feed is frozen. If you look closely, you can see small micro movements there with fingers and the strap above Anna's shoulder. We, unfortunately, due to ground station coverage, don't have video 100% of the time, even though we wish we did. That would be great. But we can see that Jared and Sarah are not strapped into their seats, of course, because they performed their EVAs or their spacewalks, extravehicular activities, where Anna and Kid remained in their seats, the window seats, so we can see their safety harnesses still strapped in there. At this point in time, we are continuing with the repressurization of the Dragon capsule, Dragon Resilience. We had a successful leak check.
1 good. 4-1 good.
4-2 good.
Commander Jared Isaacman continuing to check in with his 3 fellow.
Check secondary O2 valve open. EV1's open.
EV2's open.
4-1 open. 4-1 open.
4-2 open.
Continuing to repressurize the Dragon capsule. We're targeting about 14.1 psia for the Dragon pressure, which is the telemetry readout in the far bottom left corner of your screen.
Yep, and along with that, we're also tracking the partial pressure of oxygen. So we did hear that they've stopped the flow of pure O2 to the suits, and they've switched over to nitrox. So again, anything that we're flowing into the suits also gets introduced into the cabin atmosphere. It's an open loop system. It's how you essentially maintain pressure in the suit, since you're just constantly flowing that air in there to wash out any carbon dioxide they're exhaling, to actually function as they're cooling. So we're switching over to nitrox just to make sure we maintain kind of the right balance of nitrogen and oxygen in that cabin before they get to go to take their suits off. So we're already at that for the O2. And so we're on nitrox in the suits now, still injecting kind of the pure nitrogen into the cabin itself. And the teams just keep an eye on the O2 levels as we go throughout, and we can adjust our injections as we need to. So we're just kind of hanging out now, waiting until they get to that 14.
I'm putting up on the headline "First Private Spacewalk Completed" because I mean, so they consider it at SpaceX. I guess the official timing is when all of the pressure is back to everything. When everything, all the repressurization is done and everything. But just to convey to people watching that they have already left. They've already left. The two crew members already left and went outside and came back in. The hatch is back on. So that's why I have the headline like that. Green Giant says partially, I don't think he paid for it all. It's not clear to me. A couple of the articles that I read suggested that like he did most of the funding. There was one article I read that said that Jared Isaacman, who was the first person out, like split it with, there was some sort of division of the funding between him and SpaceX. But a number of we don't know the exact numbers, but a number of the articles suggested that he was the big funder of this. But I don't have an exact breakdown of like what did he spend on it and what did SpaceX put into it. I think there was an implication of the articles that this mission would not have happened without the funding of Jared Isaacman. Hey, thanks so much to Maisie H. Thank you, Maisie. I really appreciate that. I'm glad we were able to do it. I mean, we were going to cover this at like 2 in the morning, and it got delayed a few
Polaris
hours.
Dawn crew
but I'm glad we got to see it.
As we continuing to monitor the repress of the Dragon capsule.
Amanda Mosher says, I don't see the problem. Someone else is using their own money to further the betterment of mankind. Why so many haters?
To her left,
M.W. Pitt said, I heard he paid half of it. I don't have the exact breakdown.
Both of these wonderful women are our fellow SpaceX employees. So incredible to see them in space doing amazing things.
Yeah, and seeing Sarah get to poke her head outside Dragon, that was, I mean, both of them have trained astronauts. They've basically gotten people ready to go do this, and it's got to just be really special to get up there and do it themselves.
Incredibly.
Jason Santoro said, what an amazing time to be alive. Will I cover the splashdown? I don't know if I'll cover the splashdown. I mean, you know, it's, what can I say? There's so many space events. I cover like what I consider to be the bigger ones. I mean, it's not a space channel, so I don't know that I'd cover the splashdown of this.
Inside of the capsule, so not this photo, but the live view inside was Scott Poteet, prefers to go by his call sign Kid. He had the other window seat. Now, if you tuned into the launch phase of Polaris Dawn, you might recall that Scott...
Period. 3 PSI. Cabin pressure is 13.3.
Scott is actually our Polaris Dawn pilot, so in order to enable EVA operations, he and Sarah had to swap seats. So Sarah has been keeping the pilot seat warm for Kid.
Yeah, and like we talked about...
Hey, we got the video back.
We only saw Jared and Sarah actually get up and go outside, but all 4 of these crew members did a spacewalk today. All 4 were exposed to the vacuum of space. This is the first time that's ever happened in human history, having 4 people all at the same time.
Yep.
We saw Jared and Sarah go out and do those mobility tests. Anna and Kid, one of their kind of main roles was being the eyes back inside. If you very similar if you've ever watched the space station Spacewalk, where you'll have people inside who are able to kind of call out or fly a robotic arm or something. They're just a really important part of the team to make all of this work. Like, no spacewalk doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in a vacuum, but like you're never doing it solo. And so they were largely making sure that umbilicals didn't get hung up and keeping eyes on seals and stuff like that for the crew. So
also keeping an eye on the umbilicals in case if it got wrapped around their foot, and just really acting as the assistant coach while the EVAs were underway.
Let me read you guys a little something here. This is from Associated Press. They have a story up that says, billionaire steps out of SpaceX capsule for first private spacewalk hundreds of miles above Earth. Hey, let me show you too. They also have a nice picture here. That's a picture from SpaceX, which we saw, but that's in the AP article. That's when Jared Isaacman came out of that capsule, in case you didn't see it. And you could see the Earth there, which was pretty striking.
That will be coming after we get confirmation that the repress.
We're 9 minutes into the O2 washout, less than 4 minutes remaining. Cabin PPO2 is 3.1. Cabin pressure is coming up on 14.1. I want to review a few things. So when the timer reaches 13 minutes, we're going to shut down the nitrox flow the chutes. Then we're going to close secondary O2 valves, and then you can use your manual vent valve into the plate. When your visors, do not disconnect umbilicals. How copy?
Let me read you a little more here. Associated Press says, tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman and his crew waited until their capsule was depressurized before popping open the hatch. Isaacman emerged first. Isaacman joined a small elite group of spacewalkers who until now had included only professional astronauts from a dozen countries. Professionals on government missions. On government organized missions. The commercial spacewalk was the main focus of the 5-day flight financed by Isaacman and Elon Musk's company SpaceX, and the culmination of years of development geared towards settling Mars and other planets.
Is there confirmation that Dragon repress is now complete?
So right now we're just waiting for that final, we call it the O2 washout. So again, we've been using nitrox instead of the pure oxygen into those suits.
For anyone that has joined recently, unfortunately, you missed most of the fun.
You'll have
I encourage you to rewind. Yep. Go back about an hour. We have had successful completion of both Jared and Sarah's spacewalks. We saw them move through their test matrix and perform the suit mobility tests and the testing of the Skywalker mobility aid located at the top of the Dragon capsule.
1 minute to go.
They moved through it quite quickly, really quite in the blink of an eye.
We're close to the official end of the EVA, the extravehicular activity, because you can see the next step on the bottom says EVA complete.
We're now standing by for really the final operations of the morning. So yeah, unfortunately, if you only recently tuned in, you should definitely rewind and go back.
That's what I told you like a half hour ago.
Of taking place during the EVAs. The crowd that we had in front of Mission Control here in Hawthorne was almost on cue. We're certainly excited, as were we, to see the views of Jared and Sarah emerging from the top of Dragon Resilience. It's been quite a morning, and I can't believe it's already almost 5 a.m. Pacific. We had
there it is. Arming, disconnecting, nitroxy 2. And
are we getting an EVA complete announcement?
Yep, please. All right, check secondary O2 valves closed. EV1's closed.
EV2's closed.
4-1 closed.
4-2 closed.
All right, you're going to manually vent down.
The Washington Post says...
Checkbox. Yes, everybody. Whew. Smell that.
Are they out of their suits? Are they out of their suits now?
Dragon SpaceX, EV operations complete.
EV operations complete. That is it.
That's
the official end of the spacewalk.
SpaceX.
EVA
You showed the
complete.
same. Nice job for everyone.
Good job, SpaceX.
And everyone at SpaceX who made it possible.
There you go. That's
All
the
right.
official completion.
Section 9. Turn all seats, push to talk to manual. Armed.
Execute.
EVA
Space.
complete. Thanks to TechSlug for the gift sub on Twitch.
Wow.
Thank you.
If you're just joining us, we just heard the call out that EVA operations are complete, which marks the completion.
EV1, comm check on manual push to talk.
Manual push to talk, loud and clear.
It's 8 in the morning where I am. 8 a.m. I think I
All right,
slept
that's
an
the
hour and a
crew
half.
just switching off from.
We have you loud and clear.
Just switching
Some of
off
us.
from Vox and back on to the push to talk. That silence, really, that's it. That was the first ever commercial spacewalk. We started at 3:12 a.m. Pacific time, which puts us at 1 hour and 46 minutes. The 4 astronauts on board Dragon Resilience performed a suited pre-breathe process to acclimate their bodies for the reduced pressure. After that, the cabin was vented and the hatch door was opened.
And Mission Commander Jared Isaacman, he was the first to exit the spacecraft. He got out there. We saw him right as we were starting to get into that orbital sunset. He was able to complete all of his tasks before he ingressed, got back inside of Dragon. We did that quick attitude adjustment, and then it was SpaceX's own Sarah Gillis, the second to exit the spacecraft, do her task for the EVA. Jared and Sarah got back inside. Everybody's reporting back healthy. We had a pretty smooth and nominal repress. Our mission pilot, Scott Kidd Poteet, and our mission specialist and medical officer, Anna Menon, have been supporting the spacewalk throughout from inside. They went through the same pre-breathe, the same depress process as Jared and Sarah. They did a spacewalk too today, and everybody's reporting back healthy. And just, I'll say it again because all the stat heads out there, I know you guys are tracking, our official start time was 3:12 a.m. Pacific, and our official end was at 4:58 a.m. Pacific. That was 1 hour and 46 minutes of spacewalking time. Next, the crew's going to prepare for post-EVA operations. This is powering down everything on their suit. These were only needed, obviously, while they were in there. They're going to be able to get out of their suits next and kind of start moving around the cabin. They turn the Vox off, so we're not hearing kind of like the constant back and forth anymore. But wow, really cool to see them back inside, EVA complete.
And it's, you know, the work isn't completely done yet. They'll also have to perform some comms checks along with some additional tasks before their seats are rotated back into their pre-EVA position. And all in all, wow, just an incredible view. We've said it already a couple of times before if you're just joining.
Dragon SpaceX will be with you when you're ready in 9.3. Cabin atmosphere is looking pretty good right now, very stable.
Yeah, copy that, SpaceX, and we are ready for your seat rotation.
SpaceX copies.
All right,
report when
that
initiating.
is incredible news.
Okay. We're moving into seat rotation, so again, after that, the crew will be able to get out of their suits, and that'll be the end of just a really successful day. Hour and 46 minutes of spacewalking today. So the Polaris Dawn crew, they're back in their seats inside Dragon, completed a successful spacewalk, first ever from Dragon. A massive congratulations to the crew, all the teams at SpaceX who made this possible. Spacewalks are hard, and this was an incredible amount of work over years to get ready. Special thanks to Mike Hopper, for being here with us today, sharing some great insights. Always good to have somebody who's done the thing to help you explain what's happening. That was awesome.
Not only having done EVAs himself, but also he's a Dragon rider. He commanded the Crew 1 mission. So it was great to have him. Now, Polaris Dawn is the first mission in the Polaris program that will demonstrate new technologies, conduct extensive research, and ultimately culminate in a flight of SpaceX's Starship with humans on board. All of this while continuing to raise funds and awareness for important causes here on Earth. Now, you can learn more about the program at polarisprogram.com.
This has been an incredible mission. On day 2, Dragon went to its high apogee point, the highest point in its orbit, more than 1,400 kilometers. That's higher than any Dragon mission to date. This is the farthest from Earth anybody has been since Apollo, and in over 50 years, since 1972. And then today, the crew, first civilians to perform an EVA in space, first one in Dragon.
Yeah, and the crew also the first to test Starlink laser-based communications in space. Excuse me, I got too excited. And of course, we'll also be back to bring you live coverage of Splashdown, which we are hoping to have in a couple of days, obviously weather dependent. But you can stay on top of all of the SpaceX updates by following us on X. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you back here real soon.
There you go. There we go. That's it. How about that, guys? How about that? That is the they did it. They did the spacewalk. Wow. Hey, by the way, a quick thanks. Hold on a second. I owe a couple thank yous here. A quick thank you to TechSlug for more support on Twitch. TechSlug gave out a bunch of gift subs on Twitch, even some 3-month ones. Wow, thanks, TechSlug. Also, Chat Fright and Big Ball of Yarn for your support on Twitch. So, wow, that was something. That was something. First ever private spacewalk that wasn't on like a country's, government-run space mission. So, first private citizen to take a spacewalk was Jared Isaacman. So go back and watch it if you didn't. Oh, and again, this is what it looked like. See? I'll actually download this photo. It's a nice photo. I'm going to download this photo right now so I can show it to you. That's from Associated Press. Hold on, I'll download the photo. Then I'll put it on the screen so you can see it. Okay. I'm downloading it now. Let me open the photo up so you guys can see that. One moment, please. Let me open this up for you. Oopsie. Here it is. Look at that. That's what it looked like. That is what it looked like. So go back and watch it if you didn't see it. And then there's also this one. I don't know if that's, I have to look up whether, yeah, this was the second crew member when she was coming out, and you can actually see, I believe you can see Earth in the reflection. No. What am I seeing there? Is there any chance I'm seeing like no, this is the hatch. But I feel like I'm seeing Earth in the background too, like through a reflection or something. It's a little confusing. That is EV2. But aren't we seeing some of the Earth around? Isn't this a reflection here around here? Am I crazy? Clouds, right, exactly. So I think you're seeing Earth there. And again, there's that one. Crazy. But those pictures are from AP. SpaceX via AP. All right. Let me take a few more comments from you guys. All right, a few more comments. Does anybody have any final thoughts on what we just saw? Any final thoughts? Read some more thoughts from you guys. R. Lara Moore thought that wasn't a Earth reflection. I don't know. I do not know. Wessie's Corner Emporium says there's no place like home. How long until the average person can do this? Says Shakalaka Boom Boom. Boom. You mean just like buy one and do it? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, space tourism is becoming a bigger thing, but it's still super expensive. Kathy Jimenez says it was amazing to be able to see that. The Ringa X says you can replay it on this stream starting at 37 minutes top left elapsed time. Thanks, Ringa X. Doll Cleek says this is so inspiring. Humans can be amazing sometimes. I would be scared. Also, you know, just think about it. Like they got to spend, they're spending multiple days inside that capsule thing with each other. So you got to be mentally prepared to do that. And there's a lot of just sitting there and, you know, I'm sure it's super cool, but it's a whole thing. You're not going up there for an hour. Amanda Mosher says, I think this is truly the beginning of it to a step in the direction in which we need to be heading. It has been awesome in the purest sense of the word. Saskia de Westberg says, we saw a history moment. I don't know how they deal with the human waste up there. It's an interesting question. I do not know. Yeah, they're coming back to Earth at a maximum of 2 days. Well, it depends on weather, but basically they're supposed to spend 2 more days up there. But again, you can rewind and watch them coming out. The 2 astronauts from the Boeing Starliner who are currently at the International Space Station will be returning in February on a SpaceX spacecraft. That'll be in February. Maybe we'll cover when they come home. Guys, I think we're getting close to that time. I don't know about you. It's 8:11 a.m. I slept like an hour and a half between once they delayed it for several hours, then I went to bed, and then I got back up. So it's getting to be that time. I really appreciate you guys joining this stream at these crazy hours. But thanks for joining the stream. It's nice of you to come to the stream, and I had fun watching it with you guys and chatting. Oh, thanks to Fish Like It Is on Fish Like It's 1999 on Twitch. Thanks for the bits. Yeah, we cover all kinds of live breaking news here. Oops, you know what I didn't do? I didn't fix the headline. Sorry. Oops. Didn't fix the headline. That's why it's messed up. It was right there, but when I go back here, I got to fix it over here. Sorry about that. There we go. So if there's big news later today, we'll come on the air and cover it. Subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news. Agenda Free TV. The news networks were actually covering this too. They weren't covering the whole thing, but I did check, and they were all. I saw Fox News was covering it. CNN was covering it. I don't know if MSNBC covered it, but Fox and CNN were covering it. Not the whole thing though. Yeah, so subscribe, follow, and turn on notifications. We have a notification system. It's free. It'll let you know when we're coming on the air to cover breaking news. You sign up once, and you get notifications. So sign up for it. The mods will post the link to the notifications in the chat, and you can also find the link in the video description of this broadcast on YouTube and Facebook. And I will post updates on this or any other big story when I'm off the air. Follow me on X. I am at Lookner on X. You can follow me there for news updates. I'm still following that manhunt going on in Kentucky. If there's big updates on that, we will certainly cover it. But I will post a link to my X account. And also, I'll mention that in a second. I want to thank, a big thanks again to our moderators. You guys are awesome. We couldn't have chat rooms without our moderators. So it's really cool that we can have chats and during these events. So thank you so much to our moderators. People like Ruth Krafasi over there on YouTube. I know Danny James was here earlier, and our other YouTube moderators. Surly Dev, LB Prairie Dawn, David Green, Big Ball of Yarn over there on Twitch, and all of our other Twitch moderators. Kay Lowry Body, Ronald Egnor, Margaret Riley on Facebook. Thank you. Linda Belk and Larry on X. Thank you so much to all of our moderators. Thank you so much also to everybody who donated. That's really nice of you. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks again to people like Patrol and Janet Burnett and MG Monkey and others. I think I thanked everybody. I think I got everybody. But really appreciate your support of the channel, because that's what allows me the channel to exist and be available full-time to cover news and to buy footage like the footage we were showing tonight. So thanks for your support. If you ever want to donate to the channel, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. Yeah, and also some of our viewers were like, it's nice to cover like a story where it's like nothing bad is happening to someone. It's like a positive thing. So I enjoy covering these kind of stories. Even though I wish the hours were more normal, but you know what? It happens. It happens. Hey, also follow Agenda Free TV on X, because I always post I post like scheduling updates, programming updates here. Agenda Free TV on X. You can get programming updates over there. Surly Dev says this is normal hours. Now, I know we have viewers around the world. So we have viewers in like Australia and New Zealand and the UK and all these other countries. So for you, it's probably normal hours now. This was not normal for me, though. But we did it. I'm glad we were able to cover it. It was neat to see. It was really cool to see. And I'm glad that SpaceX broadcasted it with all the cameras and everything. So good job to them. Good job to them pulling it off. Glad that everybody stayed safe. No one has been seriously injured or no one has been killed or seriously injured during a spacewalk. Let's hope that continues. But they are very meticulously planned events and challenging and risky, from what I understand. Hey, thanks to our new member, Jaybird. Thanks, Jaybird. Also, we have a Discord chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air. It's at the same link as the notifications. So check out our free Discord chat. And thanks to our Discord moderators. Thank you, Discord moderators. Also, a reminder, if you do watch on YouTube and you want to get the YouTube notifications, which I think can be helpful to tell you when we're going live, to get the YouTube notifications, what you need to do is, in addition to subscribing, you got to click this notifications bell and choose all notifications. So if you subscribe on YouTube, make sure you got the bell checked and you've chosen all notifications. Hey, thanks to our supporters, like our subscribers over there on Facebook, like Eve Richards and Diane Allworth, Robert Rial II, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley. By the way, Jamie Rowland says, I missed it. Well, you can go back and rewind. All of our other, Eve Richards, all of our other Facebook subscribers, thanks for subscribing and supporting on Facebook. Also, our Twitch subscribers, thank you, like TechSlug. And again, thanks. TechSlug says, I went into space and only got this awesome spacesuit. Thanks again for the gift memberships, TechSlug. And Holistic says, write some positive news. Ascertainment, thanks for subscribing. And Hopper 69420. Thanks, Hopper. Thanks to TechSlug for the bits. Thank you, TechSlug. Wall Street and Shaggy, our subscribers over there on Twitch. Thank you. Girdly Sound, thank you for subscribing on Twitch. And Koala Magoo and all of our other subscribers on Twitch. And our YouTube members, thanks so much for your support. YouTube members like Jaybird and Cree10, Amanda Mosher, Mythical, Go Niners, J.K. Senar, Dallcleek, Holly, Janet Burnett, Otis Fats, Doug Cahill, Pat W., Amy, Saskia DeWest Burke, Pam Turner, Cherry Cola, Mythical. Thanks also, you guys, for sharing some of your space knowledge. I'm not a space expert, so thanks for letting me read your comments and sharing your space knowledge. Samurai Conscious, thanks for being a member. Maisie H., Gina Marie, Chris, and all of our other YouTube members, thank you. Janet Burnett. And all of our other viewers, like Kiwi NZ, Firestar 789, That Guy from That Thing, Brian Anthony, George P., GGNYC, Tom Stab, thanks for being here. CAC 813, Denise Stitch, Ava Susi, who I think is in Sweden, Stacy Bashford, all of our viewers, thank you for watching and for coming to this stream. Chat Fright, LCS Fox. I did not sleep with my tie on, Lockies, when I took the nap. I took the tie off. I am glad I got that nap in. This would have been challenging without it. Patrick Gamer, thanks for watching. Frukartoffine, thank you for watching. Also, Emily Melissa on Facebook, and Aaron Cordial. Aaron says, we want Splashdown. We'll see. Again, you know, I know the space events are fun to watch. It's just, the channel's really for big breaking news, so I don't know if I'm going to be covering the Splashdown. You can find it. I'm sure SpaceX will be covering it. Paula Thompson, thanks for watching. Monica Garrison from Wisconsin. And Janet Jude Peck. And all of our other viewers. And again, if you didn't see it, you can rewind the broadcast and check out when Jared Isaacman first came out of the capsule. That was neat. That was neat. By the way, a little perspective here from the Washington Post. They say that the mission is a milestone for the growing commercial space industry as it continues to erode government's long-held monopoly on the field. The flight was commissioned by Jared Isaacman, who was the first person out, the founder of Shift 4 Payments, and did not involve NASA. He has not said how much he paid for the flight. Wow. Oh, thank you so much to Maisie H. You know, one of our viewers said that the timestamp for when the guy came out was like 37 minutes into the flight. Into the EVA. I can tell you when it was. The hatch opened around. He came out around 6:51 a.m. or so. Around 6:50 a.m. If you go back to 6:50 a.m., that's when the hatch is out and you see him first coming out. 6:50 a.m. 6:50 a.m. Thanks, Maisie H. That's nice of you. It's time, guys. It is time to do this. So, again, I really appreciate you guys coming here and being on the stream, but it's time to get some rest. Time to get some rest. All right, guys. Thank you again for being here. Thanks to the mods. It was fun watching with you. Good job to the crew and to SpaceX for having a safe first ever private spacewalk. So that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.